Chapter 12:23. Roar. With a roar, a golden claw tore through the hole, and a man holding a broken spear was dragged out. His body was a bloody mess. From the look in Long Yu's eyes, this man was also one of the 4 masters of eternal life with heaven and earth. Those long golden claws were like the claws of a crab. The cave entrance was completely torn open, and a huge golden body appeared in front of everyone. It had the body of a cave demon, but it was much more tyrannical than a cave demon. Its entire body was enshrouded in seemingly invincible aura, and its back was covered in spikes. Its claws trampled on the ground, and it waved its long pincers to attack randomly. Inside the cave, another 2 people drenched in blood rushed out. One of them shouted, "What are you waiting for? Let's go together and kill this god insect." God insect? Lin Muyu was stunned. Leah was also stunned. Her small mouth gaped. "This is the first time I've seen a real god insect. What is a god insect?" Lin Muyu asked. Chang Wei said, "The god insect is a type of demon that specializes in combat. It's very rare. This is also the first time I've seen one. According to the ancient records, the god insect's outer shell is indestructible, the spikes on its back are poisonous, and it has the aura of magic armor to protect it. Ordinary masters are no match for it. Also, usually, only giant demon caves will have god insects guarding them. Underground, there are at least 3 mother insects. Doesn't that mean we're rich?" Lin Muyu could not stop grinning. Chang Wei said, "Madam, should we help?" Lin Muyu shook her head. "Unless they take the initiative to ask for our help, we mustn't interfere. Otherwise, they'll think that we're robbing their devil's lair. You saw how aggressive they were just now. Yes, let them fight. It's best if they all die." "That's right." On the ground, Long Yu and more than 20 others joined the fray. Admittedly, Long Yu could be considered an expert, but unfortunately, the divine insect of war was too strong. Every strike of its pincers was incomparably swift and fierce, accompanied by invisible blades of wind. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so people lost their lives to the fierce attacks of the divine insect of war, and the so-called 4 great experts of the same age as heaven and earth had all died. The god battle bugs even ate the heads of the heaven-class experts. Bang! Long Yu's saber was heavily struck by the golden pincers. The god war insect's ferocious head seemed to be filled with anger. Its countless legs moved quickly, and another pincer swept out. With a puff, Long Yu was sent flying. The sound of ribs breaking came from his armpit. He was already seriously injured. His protective astral energy couldn't withstand the god war insect's fierce attack. "Master, the big bug is coming for us." Leah panicked. "Don't worry." Lin Muyu gently opened her left palm. Blood-colored lightning surged, quickly strengthening Chang Wei and Leah with the power of the sacred martial. The Xinyuan sword in her right hand shone brightly. She said, "Don't come. Watch me fight. Leah, watch carefully as I use speed to gain an advantage." "Yes, master." Long Yu, who was lying under a rock not far away, was dumbfounded. The seemingly unremarkable kid was attacking the terrifying god war insect like a god. Moreover, his aura didn't lose to the god war insect at all. In fact, he even crushed it. Clang! The Xinyuan sword hit the god war insect's pincers. As expected, it couldn't cut it. However, Lin Muyu's body spun rapidly in the air, and she used her speed to dodge the insect's second attack. Instead, the Xinyuan sword swept across the insect's abdomen, dragging sparks behind it. When the god war insect shook its back, Lin Muyu suddenly lowered her body and kicked out with her ankle, knocking down nearly 10 of the god war insect's legs on one side and causing it to lose its balance. The moment the god war insect fell, Lin Muyu raised her sword, and the blade seemed to bring out a mountain from the ground and hit the god war insect's vulnerable abdomen. This was a strike from the 5 mountains falling from the sky. After suffering such a heavy blow, the god war insect was injured, and dark red blood flowed from its abdomen. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to kill it. She took several steps back to avoid the wounded god war insect's desperate struggle. After it swung its giant arm for the last time, Lin Muyu rushed to it like lightning. The blade glowed with the 7 elements' brilliance, and the surrounding space was slightly distorted. Then, a heavy strike of the 5 elements 8 wastelands destruction fell. Kacha, the god war insect's entire giant arm was cut off, and it screamed in pain. Lin Muyu retreated again. The most taboo when dealing with such a giant was to kill it with a series of fierce attacks, because no one had the confidence to do so. A god war insect had cultivated for God knows how many years to reach its current level of cultivation, and the vigorous demon chi in its body wasn't inferior to the power of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. Underestimating the enemy would be equivalent to digging one's own grave. Just like that, Lin Muyu retreated again and again, but each attack added new injuries to the god war insect. After 7 or 8 attacks, the god war insect's legs were almost completely removed. Finally, under Lin Muyu's 6 elements heavenly tribulation, the god war insect's ugly head was directly blown up. Blood exploded everywhere, and the hunters and people of ferocious Tiger Plain who were struggling at death's door on the ground were all stunned. This seemingly inconspicuous young man actually killed a god war insect by himself. How terrifying was he? Even Long Yu couldn't help but tremble all over. He murmured to himself, "Who is this person to be able to kill a god war insect by himself? This kind of strength is probably at the level of the leader and Meng Typhon, right? My god, is the Eternal Sword domain going to have a new structure?" "Wait, my lord," Zhang Wei said. "You can't just throw away the god war insect's body. Can you let me handle it? I can trade it for a mountain of gold and silver." "What?" According to the ancient books, the flesh of a god war insect can prolong life, and its shell is actually a kind of godly metal. After refining, it can be forged into godly weapons or fine armor. Moreover, according to the ancient books, the god war insect's heart is a gemstone rich in elemental power. It's priceless. How do you know so much about it? Zhang Wei was a little embarrassed. In the past, I once aspired to be a scholar and conquer the entire Eternal Sword domain with my knowledge. Later, I discovered that it was useless, so I gave up on it and turned to martial arts. My lord, you might not know this, but a god war insect's primary form is a crypt demon. As it grows stronger, its heart begins to mutate and transform into a huge body of energy. That's how it becomes a god war insect. The probability of a crypt demon evolving into a god war insect is 1 in 100 million. We've hit a treasure this time. All right. Lin Muyu glanced at the corpse of the god war insect and said, "You and Ria stay outside and deal with the god war insect. I'll go in and look for the primordial stones." After entering the demon's cave, it was just as Zhang Wei said. There were 7 nests in the demon's cave guarded by the god war insect, and there were also 7 broodmothers laying eggs. After clearing them all, Lin Muyu gained 7 more primordial stones. It felt like she'd found a treasure. When Lin Muyu came out of the demon's cave covered in broodmother's juices, Zhang Wei was laboriously cutting the god war insect's shell, but his blade clearly couldn't cut through it. Lin Muyu said lightly. "Oh." After Zhang Wei dodged, Lin Muyu raised her blade and slashed out with dozens of sword auras in the blink of an eye. The god war insect was dismembered, and its shell was already in pieces. Zhang Wei went to retrieve the shell ecstatically. At this time, the injured Long Yu also walked over, holding the wound under his armpit, and said, "My lord, who are you?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "There seems to be no need for us to know each other, right? And don't tell me you're going back on your word? We agreed that whoever killed the god war insect would get the demon's cave, and all the spoils of war here today would be ours." Long Yu laughed bitterly. "Of course this lowly one knows. We still have to thank my lord for killing the god war insect and saving our lives. We had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. This lowly one just wants to know, who are you, my lord, to be able to kill a legendary god war insect by yourself?" Lin Muyu didn't want to make a name for herself in the Eternal Sword region. She shook her head and said, "Who I am is not important. To the Eternal Sword region, I'm just a passerby. Take your people and leave before I want to kill you." Long Yu helped another heavily injured hunter up and staggered away step by step. Zhang Wei stood up and raised his eyebrows. "Long Yu, wait. What?" When you return to the main altar, don't mention me to anyone, and especially don't mention what you saw here today. Otherwise, not only will you bring trouble to us, but you will also bring disaster to yourself. I know. Don't worry. Long Yu walked away step by step, and this time, he didn't look back. Lin Muyu gave Zhang Wei a dimensional bag so that he could store the shell and the God War Insect's heart gem. The gem was actually a crystallized spiritual power, but it had already solidified and was very difficult to refine. In fact, other than looking good for decoration, it had almost no value. It was an existence similar to a diamond. After packing his things, he continued in the direction of Dawn City. To Lin Muyu, the power of the Sword Realm might not necessarily be in Dawn City. To her, it was a chance to train in this world and find the opportunity to comprehend the power of the Sword Realm. Life was a purposeless cultivation. The road was under one's feet, and the wonder was in one's heart. What made Lin Muyu the most happy was that there were a total of 15 light primordial stones in her Qianquan bag. Along the way, she destroyed every demon cave she came across. Not only could she help the people of the Eternal Sword Realm get rid of demons, but she could also collect the precious treasures that the Western Divine Realm needed. Once she left the Eternal Sword Realm, things like light primordial stones were not easy to find. Usually, a realm would only produce one after 100 million years. It was too rare. Eastern Heavenly Realm, Hall of Great Accomplishment. Xiao sat on the Demon Emperor's throne and accepted the worship of the new gods. This time, the new gods were a little special. There were a total of 3. One was the sea god Han Zi, the other was the god of recovery Chu Chu, and the third was actually the demon god, Nushur. When Nushur walked into the hall with her body enshrouded in demonic qi, everyone was stunned and put their guards up. However, Xiao smiled warmly. Don't be nervous, we're on the same side. Nushur is a friend of the martial god Lin Muyu, which means she's a member of our Eastern Heavenly Realm. The identity of a righteous god and a demon god will not change the friendship between us. Nushur bowed and murmured, "Thank you, Fairy Xiao." Chu Chu did not pay his respects. He said, "Fairy Xiao, if there's anything you need me, Chu Chu, to do, please let me know. I've been waiting for your arrival for a long time." Xiao stood up and said, "Many of the spirit mountains in the god realm have withered and are just waiting for you, the god of recovery, to awaken them. Let's begin immediately. The recovery of spiritual power will be a sign that the Eastern Heavenly Realm will rise again." Yes, this old man obeys. Chapter 12:24. 3 days later, Lin Muyu and the others followed a caravan into Tsangwu Valley. This is Snake Scale Valley. Zhang Wei led the horses he had bought and introduced the place as he walked. I came here when I was young. Snake Scale Valley is isolated from the outside world because of the towering mountains on both sides. Even demons can't enter. Instead, it has become a peaceful place. More and more people have settled here, forming a tribe in Snake Scale Valley. They have formed an army to fight against external forces. Moreover, there is an expert living in seclusion in Snake Scale Valley. Oh? Which expert? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei rubbed his nose. The old man of Heavenly South is said to be an expert who has lived in Snake Scale Valley since ancient times. His cultivation is unfathomable, and he lives alone in the deep mountains of Snake Scale Valley. It is said that even experts like Meng Taifeng and Luo Xingji have to give him face. Meng Taifeng once personally invited the old man of Heavenly South to come out, but he was rejected. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel excited. She asked, "Zhang Wei, do you know where this old man of Heavenly South lives?" "I don't know. I only know that he lives in the mountains and secludes himself from the world." Leah smiled. "Master, why do you want to find this old man of Heavenly South? I heard that he has a strange temper. I haven't seen him for hundreds of years." Lin Muyu nodded. "I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to find a power that can fight against the demon realm. If I don't pay a visit to an expert like the old man of Heavenly South, then there's no point in me coming here. Listen up. We won't stay in the city in the valley. We'll take the mountain road. I want to find the old man of Heavenly South." Leah nodded and smiled. Zhang Wei was a little speechless. Lord Martial God, you're not thinking of challenging the old man of Heavenly South, are you? I'm here to learn from him. Lin Muyu smiled. It's the only thing I can do. Then let's go. There aren't many mountains in Snake Scale Valley, and there are even fewer deep mountains. We should be able to find the old man of Heavenly South within a few dozen kilometers. After nightfall, the entire Snake Scale Valley was silent. Looking down from the mountain, the valley was filled with lights and stars. It was an indescribably serene atmosphere. Lin Muyu turned to look at the mountain range in the distance. There seemed to be an expert watching over them from afar. Otherwise, how could there be such a peaceful place like the Snake Scale Valley in a place like the Eternal Sword Domain, where everyone would be eaten without spitting out their bones? At night, the three of them spent the night in the mountains and immediately set off the next morning. At noon, after passing through a few mountains, the mountain range ahead was hidden in the white clouds. From afar, it looked like a wonderland of immortals. Streams gurgled as they flowed down the mountain range. Occasionally, the cries of deer echoed between heaven and earth. This was indeed a good place to live in seclusion. Lin Muyu held the Xianyuan sword and stared into the distance. Suddenly, she felt a force in her spiritual mind, and the other party seemed to sense Lin Muyu's existence. Found you! Lin Muyu smiled. Leah, Zhengwei, I'll go first. You two follow me. Yes, master. Zhengwei was speechless. With a leap, Lin Muyu was already hundreds of meters away. Her body pierced through the clouds and went straight to a certain place in the valley. As expected, after the clouds dispersed, a rather ancient building appeared in front of them. It was a huge place that looked like a Taoist temple. It was built on the mountain wall, and beside it was a flowing waterfall that looked like a long white chain. In front of the building, there were some men and women cultivating and practicing the bright sword. Judging from their skills, half of them had already entered the divine state. Who's there? Among the disciples, a male disciple with the highest cultivation suddenly looked up into the sky and saw Lin Muyu's figure. He rose from the ground and swung his long sword in the air. He shouted in a low voice, "Those who trespass into the heavenly gate shall die." The sword light was like a rainbow. Lin Muyu could not help but be secretly shocked. It was the bright sword technique. This bright sword technique was a side branch of the sword manipulation technique. It was overbearing and fierce, and could not be underestimated. However, Lin Muyu stood in the air like a mountain. The other party's sword continuously bounced off a few meters away from Lin Muyu. Although this disciple's cultivation was not bad, his strength was obviously much weaker than Lin Muyu's. It was difficult to understand him at all. Eldest senior brother. On the ground, a group of disciples rushed into the sky one after another. Some of them whose cultivation was not enough even flew into the air on their long swords. It was indeed similar to the sword manipulation technique. Who exactly are you? The disciple who was addressed as eldest senior brother asked. Lin Muyu smiled respectfully. I'm not here to kick down the mountain gate. I just want to ask, is the elder of Tianen here? Do you know master? An extremely beautiful female disciple asked in surprise. No, I don't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said with a smile, I just came because of your reputation. I want to ask senior for some advice. Another male disciple raised his eyebrows and said, Who exactly are you? Do you think our Bright Sword Forest is a place where you can come and go as you please? Tell me quickly, who exactly are you? Are you a spy sent by the City of Dawn or the Hunters Alliance? Lin Muyu was a little angry. No, you can just report to your master. Don't make things difficult for me here. I don't want to hurt any of you. Arrogant. Eldest senior brother roared angrily. Junior brothers and sisters, set up the sword formation. Immediately, 7 disciples with extraordinary cultivation flew in front of Lin Muyu, forming the position of the Big Dipper. Streams of divine power complemented each other. In the next moment, swords turned into rainbow lights and attacked. The power was endless, growing and multiplying endlessly. Before Lin Muyu even came into contact with the sword formation, she knew that she could not take it head-on. That would only exhaust her power. Therefore, she did not say anything. She suddenly raised her palm, and blood-red lightning surged. Her divine martial power was mixed with the elephant's formless technique. She shouted in a low voice, "All of you, get out of my way. I don't want to hurt you." In the sky, a strong gust of wind swept over, bringing with it the power of the surrounding mountains. In an instant, the 7 male and female disciples seemed to be crushed by mountains. All of them paled and fell down. None of them could withstand a single attack from Lin Muyu. As they fell from the sky, they temporarily lost the ability to fly. They were so frightened that they lost their composure. Just as Lin Muyu was about to fly down to rescue them, the mountain gates suddenly opened. A gentle gust of wind gushed out and supported the disciples one by one. In the next moment, an old man dressed in a white robe with the demeanor of an immortal appeared in the mountain gate. There was no anger on his face, nor was there any joy. "Master. Thank you, Master, for saving us." The group of disciples knelt down, their expressions extremely respectful. Lin Muyu also floated down with the wind. She sheathed the Xianyuan sword, cupped her fists, and said with a smile, "May I ask if you are Elder Tiannan?" The old man smiled slightly. "That's me. May I know, why have you come to the Brightsword Forest? Judging from your appearance, you are definitely not from the Eternal Sword Domain. Such an extraordinary cultivation is really rare." Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. They had not even exchanged blows, but Elder Tiannan seemed to have already seen through his strength. He smiled and said, "Senior, I am indeed not from the Eternal Sword Domain. I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to pursue a power called the Sword Domain. That's why I came to the Bright Sword Forest. I hope that Senior can teach me a thing or two." "You're looking for the Sword Domain?" Elder Tiannan could not help but laugh. He stroked his beard and said, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. In this old man's Bright Sword Forest, there are only me and a group of disciples. There is absolutely no power of the Sword Domain. Moreover, this old man has been in the Eternal Sword Domain for tens of thousands of years, but I have never known what the Sword Domain is. Young hero, please return. There is nothing here that you're looking for." Lin Muyu cupped his fists respectfully. "Since I don't know what the power I'm looking for is, I naturally have to pay my respects to Senior. Otherwise, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? I don't care if Senior possesses the power of the Sword Domain, but I still feel that I'm shallow and would like to ask Senior for some guidance." A female disciple said somewhat angrily, "Why don't you listen to me? Master has already said that there is nothing here that you want. Why aren't you leaving?" Elder Tiannan smiled and said, "Ling, don't be rude. This young hero has come from afar and is a guest. Since he's here, let's brew some tea for him. Young hero, please follow this old man." "Many thanks, Senior." Lin Muyu strode into the Bright Sword Forest, while the group of disciples looked at him angrily. They all thought that he was an uninvited guest and that he was definitely up to no good by coming here. The Bright Sword Forest was filled with mountain ranges. The plank paths and pavilions were all built in the air. Under Elder Tiannan's guidance, Lin Muyu entered the depths of the Bright Sword Forest. Not long after, she arrived at the pear altar, only to see that the pear blossoms were in full bloom, as if it was the beginning of spring. It was indeed worthy of the pear altar's reputation. Compared to the barren world outside the Snake Scale Valley, this place was simply like a paradise. "Young hero, please sit." Elder Tiannan sat cross-legged at the stone table beside the pavilion, while Lin Muyu sat opposite him. The female disciple who was still angry earlier brought over a pot of tea and began to brew it. "All of you, sit down." Elder Tiannan gave the order, and immediately, the group of disciples sat down in various parts of the pear altar. Everyone surrounded Elder Tiannan and Lin Muyu in a circle, as if it was the wonderful scene of 100 schools of thought lecturing in ancient times. When the female disciple served the tea, Elder Tiannan took a sip and said with a smile, "Young hero, where did you come from, and why did you come here? Why don't you tell me?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled. "My name is Lin Muyu, and I was born in the 6 realms outside the Eternal Sword Domain. I was originally the divine king of the Eastern Heaven realm, but after the heavenly punishment descended, the gods of the heaven beyond heaven established a new order called the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Now, I am the martial god of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. In addition, the devil realm invaded, and tens of millions of Mara went on a rampage. The master of the devil realm, Zien, wields the supreme artifact, the god-destroying pagoda. I came here to seek the power of the sword domain in order to deal with the god-destroying pagoda. So many things have happened in the outside world over the years, Elder Tian sighed. Young hero, you are the martial god. Forgive me for not recognizing you, that's just a title, I hope you don't mind. Elder Tian said, since you are so honest with me, I can only be honest with you. In fact, I was exiled to the eternal sword domain more than 80,000 years ago. As for my crime, it was to pry into the ultimate power of the bright sword, the proud sword technique. This proud sword technique is the power of the sword domain that you speak of, young hero. However, after I pry into the proud sword technique, I found that although this proud sword technique is peerlessly overbearing, it has lost its righteousness. It is too overbearing but not benevolent enough. Great disaster? What great disaster? Deceiving the master and destroying the ancestors. Chapter 12:25. Elder Tian nodded and said, my master was mistakenly killed by me when I was at the initial stage of the proud sword technique. After that, we fell out with each other, and after I mistakenly killed my master, I found myself in a situation controlled by the proud sword technique. This powerful proud sword technique actually affected my mind and made me a heinous person. After that, I destroyed the proud sword technique, voluntarily accepted punishment, and was banished to this eternal sword domain. As he spoke, the old man looked at the group of disciples lovingly and said, in the eternal sword domain, massacres and invasions happen all the time. These children were all taken in by me after they lost their parents. Their parents might have been evil people, but they were not at fault. I taught them martial arts and founded the Bright Sword Forest to find a place to stay in the eternal sword domain. So that's how it is. Lin Mu was a little shocked and said, then senior, why does the proud sword technique control your mind? Elder Tian smiled faintly and said, the reason why the proud sword technique is called the proud sword technique is because of the obsession in the heart. The sword is the king of all weapons, and a sword in hand is enough to look down on the world. The state of mind of the proud sword technique pursues an extreme arrogance, extreme strength, extreme madness. Once the cultivation is successful, one can look down on everything and be invincible in the world. Back then, I had already shocked my sect when I cultivated the proud sword technique to 10%. If I had cultivated the proud sword technique to 100%, I'm afraid I would have become the world's biggest disaster. Speaking of this, Elder Tian glanced at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, young hero, do you still want to find the power of the sword domain and cultivate the proud sword technique? Lin Muyu's eyes were determined and said, I believe that all the power in the world can be controlled and mastered. Perhaps you were too eager to pursue power, so you stepped into the wrong direction of the proud sword technique. Since the proud sword technique is the king of swordsmanship, it must have the benevolence and generosity of a king. Senior only cultivated strength, but did not have the heart to cultivate the proud sword technique. You? Elder Tian was stunned, then couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at himself. The younger generation will surpass the older. I finally understand why you became the new order of the martial god. So, are you willing to teach me the AO sword tactics? I can't teach you. Elder Tian shook his head and said, when I destroyed my martial arts, the mental cultivation method of the AO sword tactics had been completely removed from my consciousness. I can't teach you anything about the AO sword tactics. Then, doesn't that mean this peerless power has been lost? Lin Muyu was slightly disappointed. Elder Tian smiled. That's not necessarily true. The AO sword technique is a mental cultivation method that originally existed between heaven and earth. It's almost the same as the laws. I only had a glimpse of the tip of the iceberg of the AO sword technique. As for how to find the AO sword technique, I can give you a way. When I first came to the Eternal Sword domain, my sword was broken and my cultivation was destroyed. I once carved a small portion of the mental cultivation method of the AO sword technique on the stone wall at the back of the mountain. But after so many years of wind and rain, most of the words are no longer clear. Whether or not you can cultivate it depends on your luck. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. She cupped her fists and said, "Thank you, Senior. That means, you're willing to let me cultivate in Bright Sword Forest?" The elder smiled and said, "A dignified Mahayana heavenly path martial god is cultivating in my Bright Sword Forest. This is the supreme honor of our Bright Sword Forest. Why do you continue to be so polite? It's just that you're a martial god. I don't have the qualifications to teach you anything. So, you can stay in Bright Sword Forest, but you're not a disciple. You're just a guest. What do you think?" "I'll do as you say." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "I'll just follow Senior's instructions." Elder Tiannan happily said, "Disciples, listen up. This young hero Lin Muyu will stay in Bright Sword Forest to cultivate. You need to treat him like a guest. No one is allowed to pick a fight. Otherwise, I'll punish you according to the sect rules. I won't tolerate it." "Yes, Master." All the disciples nodded in unison. At this moment, a disciple floated over and said, "Master, something bad has happened. Another 2 people have come to crash the sect gates. It's a man and a woman. Their cultivation levels are extremely high." Lin Muyu hurriedly said, "They're my people. Just let them come in. Don't make a move." Elder Tiannan smiled slightly. "Young hero, shall we continue to enjoy tea?" "Okay." After Leah and Chang Wei hurriedly entered the pear jar, they discovered that Lin Muyu was leisurely enjoying tea and discussing Dao. For a moment, their temper was gone. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu instructed the 2 of them to sit down and enjoy tea together. Elder Tiannan personally brewed tea while looking at Chang Wei. He said, "This young hero's hostility is rather strong. It's better for you to relax and remain calm." Chang Wei wished he could smash his tea stall. However, due to Lin Muyu's presence, he respectfully said, "Yes, this junior understands." Leah blinked her eyes. "Master, do you really want to stay in this Bright Sword Forest to practice?" "Yes, I came here to find the power of the sword realm. Now I finally found it. That is the proud sword tactics. Therefore, I must stay here until the practice of the proud sword tactics is completed." Leah nodded. "Master, stay here. Leah will also stay here." Elder Tiannan said, "Young hero, there is one more thing you must bear in mind. Practicing the proud sword tactics will inevitably cause your temperament to change. You will become supercilious and arrogant. Once you really reach that point, remember to stop and no longer practice. Otherwise, you will destroy your future. You, the martial god of the Mahayana heavenly path, may fall into the evil path. That will be a great misfortune for the world." "I know. I will try to control it." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Thank you for reminding me, Senior. After the tea, I will let the disciples take you to the guest room. After that, I will guide you to the cultivation place at the back of the mountain." But the food in Jianlin was not bad. Although it was vegetarian, it was rare to eat the dishes grown in the mountains, which were fresh and elegant. After lunch, the guest room was arranged. Chang Wei stayed in the room to practice on his own. Lin Muyu took Leah to the back of the mountain with Elder Tiannan. At this moment, a spring rain started to fall from the sky. The 3 of them did not wear any bamboo hats or anything like that, but they used their skills to block the drizzle dozens of centimeters away, so they were not wet. The drizzle filled the mountain with fresh air. After a few ups and downs, the 3 of them arrived at the top of a lonely peak. Looking from afar, there was a very flat mountain wall on the opposite side, which was engraved with faintly visible words. Elder Tiannan did not look at these words. For him, the mental cultivation method of the proud sword tactics was a curse. "Young hero, it's here. The opening chapter of the AO sword tactics is recorded on the mountain wall. Everything I wrote before I destroyed my cultivation is there. How much you can comprehend depends on you. I'll go by myself. Young hero, please help yourself." "Thank you, Senior." When Lin Muyu looked up, Elder Tianen had already floated away and quickly disappeared in the light curtain of rain. Leah's mind was simple. She sat quietly on a stone and said, "Master, you practice the proud sword tactics, and Leah will practice the stellar tactics." Okay. Lin Muyu also sat quietly with her legs crossed, staring at the opposite mountain wall, but she could not distinguish the meaning of those words. She could not even see the complete words. The mountain wall had been through tens of thousands of years and had been seriously deformed. Elder Tianen was simply making things difficult for himself, but he had no other way. He could only help Lin Muyu to this point. Moreover, Elder Tianen and Lin Muyu had agreed that once Lin Muyu could not control the killing intent in the proud sword tactics after practicing the proud sword tactics, he must immediately leave the eternal sword domain. Even if he fell into the devil's path, he could not do evil in the eternal sword domain. In the evening, Leah stretched her arms and said, "Master, I am hungry. Let's go down the mountain for dinner and come back tomorrow morning." "Yes, master." The two floated down and walked on the plank road. The drizzle was still falling. "Master, did you understand the proud sword tactics?" "No." "How much did you understand?" "I didn't understand a word." Leah opened her small mouth. "Master, didn't you waste the whole afternoon?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "It's not a waste. I have been looking at those stones, and I always feel that the stones want to tell me something." As Elder Tianen said, the proud sword tactics is not an ordinary martial arts. It is a kind of power similar to the law. The words can be washed away by the wind and rain, but the law will not disappear because of the wind and rain. "Master, do you want to continue looking at those big stones tomorrow?" "Yes." "Master, you're so boring." "Master, can Leah ask you a question?" "Go ahead." "That old man Tianen also looks very powerful, and he is the master of the Bright Sword Forest, but Leah knows that master is also very powerful. Right now, I really want to know, between master and old man Tianen, who is more powerful? Can master defeat him?" "Elder Tianen is a senior, and I am a junior. Of course, I will not fight with him." "So, master is admitting defeat?" "Not necessarily." Leah knows the answer. "Master, you don't have to tell me." Lin Muyu, after a few minutes of peace, Leah said again, "Master, master." "What's the matter?" "Leah has practiced the star's skill to the second level. When will master teach me falling star steps?" "Falling star steps is a martial arts skill to improve body movements." "Master, you don't want to teach me, do you?" "I will teach you if you want to learn, but you learn so fast. Aren't you afraid of being possessed by the devil?" "I don't think so." Leah feels that these martial arts are very orderly in her heart, and they won't conflict with each other. "Master, are you worried that Leah will learn too fast and learn all of your martial arts, and then you don't need me anymore?" Master, you don't have to worry. Even if Leah learns all of your martial arts, I will not leave you. Unless master chases Leah away, Leah will follow you for life." Lin Muyu glanced at this beautiful young girl and could not help but smile. A lifetime is very long. I know, but Leah has already decided. Decided what? To follow master forever. Master will protect Leah, and Leah will also protect master. Chapter 12:26. In the quiet night of the radiant St. Hall, the bonfires illuminated the huge pillars in the surroundings as well as the figures within. Shi Yen sat there with a row of radiant primordial stones laid out in front of her. There were 12 of them in total. She said, "Shin brought back a total of 12 radiant primordial stones from Lasai. The number is limited, so I can only create 12 old gods. You guys decide. I'll choose the 12 strongest crippled gods to reconstruct their divine power." The people around her were all once well-known figures of the Western divine realm. There was no lack of perfect god emperors among them. "Lord Blazing Angel, please tell us." "We'll definitely obey." "All right, I'll name them." Shi Yen looked at them quietly and said, "Crown Prince Robert of the Radiant Clan, Elder Albert of the Ella Clan, you are of the Darklight Clan, Zay of the Ganges clan, Gina of the Radiant clan, Helena of the Roshun clan, Isabella of the Huji clan. When Xian finished reading the 12 names, the 12 people also stood up. Each of their faces was filled with excitement and gratitude. Shi Yan's reading of their names meant that they were about to break away from the status of a waste god. Even if they became an old god, they could at least obtain eternal life and regain the powerful abilities that they had lost. The 12 of you shall wait for me in the temple tomorrow morning. I'll use the lost paradise to refine and absorb the radiant primordial stones for you. Sleep early tonight and maintain your strength. The absorption process is quite painful. Shi Yan smiled. If you want to obtain power, you have to pay a certain price. Do you understand? Yes, thank you, Lord Blazing Angel. All right, disperse. Guard your positions and guard against any sneak attacks from Mara's army. The crowd dispersed one by one. In the blink of an eye, only Shi Yan, Eva, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Li Fei, Terralin, and a few others were left in the hall. They were the real rulers of the Western Divine Realm, the group of people who decided the ups and downs of the Western Divine Realm. Shi Yan seemed a little tired. Previously, when she followed Claude, she had always followed Claude's orders. Now that she had become the master of the Western Divine Realm, she was not used to doing everything herself. Sister Haiyan, are you all right? Qin Yin asked with concern. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. Well, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. At this moment, Shi Yan's heart suddenly moved. She stood there in a daze. What's wrong? Qin Yin was a little surprised. I feel like some kind of power is summoning me. Shi Yan quickly walked out of the hall. In the sky above the spirited mountain, beams of golden light pierced through the clouds, revealing the appearance of the Mahayana Heavenly Tao's heavenly voice scroll. In an instant, half of the spirited mountain was illuminated. Whoosh! A beam of golden light landed on Shi Yan. Then, a huge avatar descended from the sky and entered her body. Immediately, Shi Yan stretched out her arms and accepted the gift from the heavens. The heavenly voice scroll automatically formed the avatar of Goddess Nuwa. She looked extremely beautiful and dignified. She looked at Shi Yan with a peaceful expression and said, Shi Yan, as a blazing angel of the heavenly realm, you are brave and fearless. Now that you have gained the recognition of the heavenly voice scroll, you shall be bestowed with a first-class superior deity avatar. You shall be titled Moon Goddess and wield the heavenly Tao of the Moonlight Heavenly Tao. I will also bestow upon you the power of the cold moon. I hope that you will uphold the heavenly Tao and do your best for the world. Shi Yan knelt on one knee respectfully and raised her head, saying, I will do my best and not let you down. Goddess Nuwa's avatar gradually disappeared. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi walked forward together and said with a smile, Congratulations, Sister Haiyan. Shi Yan also stood up and received the congratulations from Eva, Li Fei, Terralin, and the others. All the old deities were very happy because Shi Yan's Mahayana Heavenly Tao's avatar not only meant that the Western Divine Realm's power had increased, but it also meant that the old deities could once again ascend to godhood. Shi Yan was just a good start. This was the real rise of the Western Divine Realm. How do you feel now? Eva asked. Shi Yan did not speak but just raised her palm gently. She felt an extremely strong force in her palm that she had to release. The moment the power of the cold moon gushed out of her palm, it forced Eva, Terralin, Li Fei, and the others to retreat involuntarily. The vast and awe-inspiring power was really too strong. So this is the divine power of the heavenly law of the Mahayana realm. Shi Yan pursed her red lips and said with a smile, No wonder that Brata Yu is almost invincible under the heavens. He only thinks about fighting all day long and he doesn't even think about leaving his 2 wives in the Western Divine Realm. Qin Yin blushed. Sister Xian, what are you talking about? I asked exalted Fuxi. You has only gone to the Eternal Sword Domain. Tang Xiaoxi also said, That's right, Mu has gone to seek greater power. Shi Yan said with a smile, I've heard of the Eternal Sword Domain. It's a very dangerous place. Aren't the 2 of you worried that you will meet with misfortune in the Eternal Sword Domain? I am a little worried but not very worried. Qin Yin's brows relaxed and she said with a smile, I believe in him. If even an Einherjar can't return from the Eternal Sword domain safely, then who else can conquer it? I'm so envious of the two of you, Shi Yan smiled leisurely. These words came from the bottom of her heart. The unreserved love and trust between Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi was really enviable. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were very relieved that Lin Muyu had gone to the Eternal Sword domain alone. They knew that Lin Muyu would definitely return. Moreover, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were in the Western Divine Realm. Lin Muyu was also relieved. He knew that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi would definitely be able to protect the Western Divine Realm. If they had not met each other, they would all be powerful rulers. There was no doubt about that. Under the cold moonlight, Shi Yan stood on the tallest mountain near the Radiant Saint Hall with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, protecting the Western Divine Realm just like that. Since ancient times, gods had always been like this, protecting a region in solitude and coldness. They were very different from the Xiao Yao that the poet spoke of. Eternal Sword Domain, Bright Sword Forest. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Leah had been unhappy the entire time, as it seemed like her master's cultivation had not progressed at all. This was not a good thing. If she wasted too much time in Bright Sword Forest, Lin Muyu would face greater and greater danger. After all, news had already begun to spread in the outside world. The person who had slain a god of war insect alone had appeared in the Eternal Sword domain. The most taboo thing for people in the Eternal Sword domain was to be in the limelight. Unless it was a grandmaster like Meng Taifeng or Luo Xingji, it was very easy to become the target of public criticism. Fortunately, Snake Scale Valley was very secretive, and Bright Sword Forest was located in the depths of the mountains. Outsiders might not be able to find this place. Otherwise, trouble would have come within 3 days. In the evening, the setting sun shone on the stone wall. Lin Muyu sat there quietly, staring at the stone wall. Suddenly she smiled. What's wrong, master? Leah looked worried. Even if you can't practice the proud sword technique, you don't have to give up. You still have Leah. We can practice other techniques? Master, are you really okay? Lin Muyu suddenly stood up and smiled. Silly girl, what are you thinking about? I have already seen through the essence of the proud sword technique. Ah! Leah was stunned. She pointed at the stone wall and said, But there's nothing there. I can't see those words. If Leah can't see them, how can Master see them? To see the words at the beginning of the proud sword technique, you can't rely on your eyes, but on your heart. Lin Muyu said quietly, For the past 3 days, I have been feeling the mental cultivation method of the proud sword technique reflected in the depths of the stone wall. When Senior Tianen wrote this mental cultivation method, he had already reflected the mystery of the proud sword technique into the stone wall. It has not disappeared for thousands of years. What I see is not the words, but the essence of the mental cultivation method at the beginning of the proud sword technique. Do you understand? Leah shook her head. I don't understand. It's too profound. It doesn't matter. You will understand in the future. So now, Leah bit her red lips and said, What do you do now? Start practicing immediately? Practice? Practice what? Proud sword technique. No, what's the use of practicing it? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Let's go. It's almost time for dinner. Go and eat with Master. You are growing now, so you should eat more. As she said, Lin Muyu glanced at Leah's chest. Leah suddenly blushed. Master, do you dislike Leah's flat chest? I don't dislike it. The beautiful faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in Lin Muyu's mind. Both of his wives had shockingly good figures, the kind with S-shaped bodies. Now that he had taken in a female disciple, she was indeed rather flat, the kind that did not even reach a dash. However, Lin Muyu did not mind. He was taking in a disciple, not a concubine. What was the point of asking so much? But Leah seemed to be unhappy and very upset. So Lin Muyu touched her head and said, Leah, the direction of your practice is speed, so the lighter the body, the better. It's not the key whether your chest is big or not. A flat chest can improve your speed. Let me tell you a story. Oh, go ahead, master. In my hometown, there is a race called the Amazon. The Amazon girls are naturally good at archery. In order to practice extraordinary archery skills, they will choose to cut off the left side of their chest that hinders drawing the bow. This is because too much of their chest will hinder the speed and strength of drawing the bow. Think about it, these powerful female warriors will even give up their breasts to gain strength. Your flat chest is nothing. Leah was confused. Master, do you mean that I should cut off my chest too? No, it must be very painful. Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that your flat chest might not be a bad thing. Don't take it to heart. Sai, why are we talking about this? Let's go and eat. I'm already hungry. Okay. Leah obediently held her master's hand and quickly went down the mountain. Behind them was the misty precipice behind the bright sword forest. Chapter 12:27. The cafeteria of Bright Sword Forest was very big. The disciples in charge of the food had already prepared the food. The food on every table was exactly the same, so they could sit at will when eating. There were 4 people at a table, 4 dishes and 1 soup. There was no meat, it was all vegetarian. When Lin Muyu came in with Leah, there was only 1 empty table and there were already 2 people sitting at it. They were eldest senior brother Shi Han and eldest senior sister Ru Yen. Both of them already knew Lin Muyu when Lin Muyu entered the mountain to break the sword formation. Leah, let's sit here. Master. Lin Muyu sat down, picked up the chopsticks, and said with a smile, Shi Han, Ru Yen, do you mind eating together? I don't mind, please help yourself. Shi Han smiled and said, Master Martial God, I wonder if you have gained anything after entering the back mountain for so many days? Not yet. Ru Yen smiled. It seems that the AO sword tactics left by Master is still too profound. Even a martial god with such cultivation can't comprehend it. The martial god of Mahayana Heavenly Path actually can't comprehend Master's AO sword tactics. It's really unexpected. Leah said indignantly, What nonsense are you talking about? How can Master not comprehend a mere AO sword tactics? Leah. Lin Muyu's voice became a little more serious, and she said, Eat. Yes, Master. Leah glanced at her with a wronged expression. Obviously, Shi Han and Ru Yen did not have a good impression of Lin Muyu. After all, the 2 of them were the strongest in Bright Sword Forest apart from their master, Elder Tianan. However, on the first day that Lin Muyu came, she made a fool of them. The sword formation of 7 people was broken by Lin Muyu in 1 move. This was a great humiliation for them, and they lost face in front of their peers. Lin Muyu was just eating, and soon, she had finished 3 bowls of rice. Leah was secretly surprised. Lin Muyu had obviously meditated for a whole day, so how did she consume so much energy? In fact, Leah didn't know that Lin Muyu's meditation was tantamount to an inner battle. The AO sword tactics continued to penetrate into her heart, and the arrogant and cruel power also poured in. Lin Muyu was always on the defensive and didn't use the righteousness deep in her heart to dispel these evil thoughts. As Elder of Tianan said, practicing the AO sword tactics was a risk in itself. Ria asked again, Master, do you have evening lessons tonight? No, as usual. Let's go to the pair altar to admire the moon and play chess. All right. Hearing this, Shi Han couldn't help but smile and said, Martial God, with all due respect, are you really cultivating the AO sword tactics? I see that you guys are so romantic every day, as if you are enjoying this otherworldly life in our Bright Sword Forest. Lin Muyu smiled and said, That's right, I really enjoy my current life, but I am indeed cultivating the AO sword tactics. The AO sword tactics is so profound that with your cultivation, you may not be able to comprehend it even after 10,000 years. Why do you need to say so much and embarrass yourself? Shi Han was furious and was about to explode. Ru Yen hurriedly said, Eldest senior brother? He is Master's honored guest. We can't afford to offend him, but we can still hide from him. Let's go to the evening lessons. Shi Han flicked her sleeves and left. Ria blinked her eyes and said, Master, the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest are really arrogant. Why don't you teach them a lesson? Shirhan is such a despicable person. He is so jealous that he should be beaten up. If Master is too embarrassed to do it, Ria will help you teach him a lesson. How about it? Even if Shirhan and Ru Yen join hands, I may not lose to them. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. See, you also said that you may not lose to them. It's better for you to cultivate in peace. When you feel that you can definitely beat the two of them together, then come back to me and give me a suggestion. Ria was smart. She nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you, Master, for your advice. I didn't advise you. I'm just speaking the truth. When it comes to fighting, you must only fight when you are sure that you will win. Otherwise, it won't look good if you lose." "Yes, Pear Altar." The night breeze blew, bringing with it the faint fragrance of pear blossoms and peach blossoms in the distance. Pear Altar was the most beautiful place in the entire Bright Sword Forest. There were people here all the time. There were disciples of the Bright Sword Forest here for evening lessons and cultivation. There were also Lin Muyu bringing Ria here to drink tea and admire the moon. Elder Tiannan had already disappeared for 3 days. It was said that he was cultivating in seclusion in his own secret room. The matters of the outside world were all decided by Shirhan. Lin Muyu sat at the stone table and personally brewed tea. Ria, on the other hand, was concentrating on cultivating the stellar arts. The bright moonlight in the sky was absorbed into her palm and turned into wisps of cold air in the blink of an eye. This was the power of the 5th level of the stellar arts, Jade Snow Frost. This made Lin Muyu feel extremely surprised. In less than 10 days, Ria had actually cultivated to the 5th level. This talent was too strong, far surpassing Citizen, Wei Chou, and the others. For a moment, Lin Muyu realized that she had picked up a treasure. In time, Ria's cultivation would not be ignored. While she was cultivating, there was suddenly a clamor outside. Immediately after, a disciple of the Bright Sword Forest staggered in with half of his body covered in blood. "Eldest senior brother, it's bad." "What's going on?" Shirhan was shocked. "Quickly tell me what's going on." "There are 3 experts outside. They are hunters. They seem to be looking for someone. They fought with our external affairs disciples and injured a few of us. Bastard hunters, they actually came to look for trouble again. Follow me." Shirhan and the others quickly left with their swords. Lin Muyu also stood up, but Ru Yen, who was not far away, said coldly, "Lord Martial God, please stay. We, the Bright Sword Forest, can solve the matters of the Bright Sword Forest ourselves. There is no need for Lord Martial God to get involved." Lin Muyu frowned. "The Hunters' Alliance is most likely here for me. I think it's better for me to go and take a look. There's no need. If they dare to step into the Bright Sword Forest, they are courting death. Lord Martial God, please do as you please." With that, Ru Yen floated away from the stone forest, turned into a stream of light, and flew toward the outer hall. Ria stood up. "Master? Let's go." Lin Muyu did not care so much. With a leap, she brought Ria to the outer hall in the blink of an eye. There was a fight in the darkness in the distance. Many Bright Sword Forest disciples were fighting with 3 hunters using the Bright Sword technique. The hunters' cultivation was not ordinary, and almost all of them had the strength of a divine king. They had already injured many Bright Sword Forest disciples. "Sword formation." Shirhan roared angrily and charged forward with a few disciples. For a moment, sword light shone brightly, and they killed 1 hunter in just 1 round. However, the other 2 hunters were extremely fierce. Their blades pierced through the chests of 2 Bright Sword Forest disciples, and they died. Ria said, "Master, are we just going to stand by and watch?" "Of course not." Lin Muyu opened her palm downwards, and sacred martial power immediately surged. 2 explosions occurred in the air, and the hearts of the remaining 2 hunters immediately burst, and they fell into a pool of blood. "Let's go." Lin Muyu turned around and brought Ria back to the guest room. She would leave everything to Shirhan and Ru Yen to handle. After all, she was an outsider. However, it seemed that they could not stay in the Bright Sword Forest for long. This batch of hunters had died in the Bright Sword Forest, and the next batch would arrive soon. At that time, the Bright Sword Forest would inevitably be destroyed. The next day, during the morning lesson in the Bright Sword Forest, Sher Han announced that 5 disciples had died tragically in the battle at night, and more than 10 people had been injured. This debt was naturally placed on the hunters. White banners were hung in the prayer altar to commemorate the disciples who had died. Lin Muyu and Ria continued to sit in the back of the mountain for another day. Just like that, another 3 days passed. Lin Muyu had been sitting in the back of the mountain for 7 days. Every day was exactly the same. He brought Ria back and forth between the back of the mountain and the guest room, completely ignoring the affairs of the Bright Sword Forest. However, he also knew that the attitude of the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest towards him was getting worse. On the morning of the 8th day, Elder Tianin came out of seclusion. It was still drizzling in the back of the mountain. Lin Muyu sat there quietly, and Ria guarded by her side. Rustle, rustle. Faint footsteps came from behind. Without looking back, Lin Muyu said softly, "Senior, you are here?" Elder Tianin smiled slightly. "Martial God, it seems that you have seen through the secret of the AO sword tactics and have achieved a little success. How do you feel? Can you restrain the hostility in your heart?" "Currently I can. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The cultivation of the martial god is indeed above me. Senior, I have already understood the mental cultivation of the AO sword tactics. I will soon leave the Bright Sword Forest, so as not to bring you trouble." "How could that be? Did my disciples say something?" Elder Tianin took a deep breath and said, "I have spoiled them. Martial God, please don't be calculative with these children. No, it's just that it is indeed time for me to leave. Otherwise, I will bring unexpected trouble to the Bright Sword Forest." "Martial God, are you talking about the Hunter Alliance?" "Yes." "Senior, do you have the confidence to defeat Luo Xingji?" "So I should leave." "I'm afraid it's too late." Elder Tianan smiled slightly. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She also sensed that a strong aura was approaching the Bright Sword Forest. She stood up and said with a smile, "Senior, let's go and take a look together." The loud sound of the waterfall reverberated in the surroundings. Close to 100 disciples were sparring in the square outside the Bright Sword Forest. At that moment, figures flew over from afar, all of them wearing the insignia of the Hunter Alliance. "Meet the enemy!" Sher Han roared, his face full of anxiety. It was obvious that there were more opponents this time. At least 100 hunters had appeared outside the gates of the Bright Sword Forest, and there was no lack of experts among them. Rustle, rustle. A few figures appeared above the outer hall. It was Elder Tianan, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, and Leah. Outside the hall, in front of a group of hunters, an expert holding an azure broadsword grinned hideously and said, "Alliance leader is benevolent, but 3 days ago, you innocently slaughtered our brothers from the Hunters Alliance. I think it's time to flatten your bullsh *T Bright Sword Forest." Behind him, more and more people came. Soon, more than 1,000 hunters appeared, all of them in the divine state. Sher Han, Ru Yen, the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest were almost scared out of their wits. They had never seen such a scene. Elder Tianin squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "This person is called Sun Xingmiao. He is ranked 5th among the 7 guardian deities under Luo Xingji. He has killed countless people and brought so many people with him. No wonder he dares to threaten to destroy the Bright Sword Forest." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. She put her right index and middle fingers together. Suddenly, there was a sharp whistle on her fingertips, and a golden light swirled. She said, "Senior, how about letting me try the power of the proud sword tactics? Go, martial god." However, before Elder Tianan finished speaking, Sher Han and Ru Yen had already joined forces and rushed forward. "You're courting death." Sun Xingmiao roared and swept his broadsword. Immediately, there were 2 puff, puff sounds. Sher Han and Ru Yen vomited blood and retreated. They were already seriously injured. The gap was too big. Chapter 12:28. Master. Shirhan raised her head to look at Elder Tian. However, it was Lin Muyu who appeared in the sky. He flew straight ahead and stood between Sun Xingmiao, the injured Shirhan, and Ru Yen. He said, "Why aren't you taking your eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister away?" Several Bright Sword Forest disciples hurriedly helped Shirhan and Ru Yen up. However, the two of them were unwilling to leave and continued to stand guard in front of the mountain gate. "Who are you? Are you trying to meddle in other people's business?" Sun Xingmiao waved his saber and smiled. "I don't kill nameless ghosts. Tell me, what's your name?" "Lin Muyu." Sun Xingmiao's body trembled slightly. "Could you be that Lin Muyu who killed the divine bug of war all by himself?" "It seems like I did it." Lin Muyu's expression was calm. "You killed my hunters and stole my god's gem. Do you admit to this?" "No. Your hunters were killed by the divine bug of war because they weren't strong enough, and I happened to save their lives. But do you want to put the blame on me?" Do you think I'll believe your one-sided story?" Sun Xingmiao narrowed his eyes and laughed wildly. "You can't be thinking that you're the only one in the entire Eternal Sword domain who can kill divine bugs, right? Come. Today, I'll let you know that there's always someone better than you." Before he finished speaking, Sun Xingmiao had already made his move. His saber swept toward Lin Muyu with bolts of furious lightning. The momentum of this saber was shocking. If Lin Muyu couldn't handle it, the entire mountain gate would definitely be razed to the ground by Sun Xingmiao. However, Lin Muyu stood in the air with a faint sacred martial power around her. She carried the Xianyuan sword behind her back and didn't even unsheath it. She merely raised the tip of her finger. Suddenly, heaven and earth lost color, and the entire space seemed to freeze. Buzz. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stood rooted to the ground. That was a different kind of power. The momentum in the air changed drastically. Lin Muyu's fingertip transformed into the image of a giant sword, piercing straight through Sun Xingmiao's thunderblade, forcibly cutting open the power of his domain. With a loud bang, Sun Xingmiao's body drifted back like a leaf in the wind. He felt as if his entire body was being sliced by thousands of swords. Even his shoulder armor and chest armor had evaporated and melted. Lin Muyu's light finger didn't seem like an attack that a god should have. It was as if the hottest power in the universe had been turned into a sharp sword, making it impossible for anyone to block it. In any case, Sun Xingmiao was one of the top figures in the Hunters' Alliance, yet he was defeated in one move. The group of hunters turned pale as well. They had never seen Sun Xingmiao lose so miserably before. The lightning blade sharpness and lightning blade technique were so powerful that few in the entire Eternal Sword domain could match up to him. But now, he had been defeated in a single move. Bastard! Sun Xingmiao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and raised his head to look at Lin Muyu with hatred. He said, "I don't believe you. Who are you to be able to cultivate such a sword technique?" Lin Muyu naturally used the proud sword technique, but she smiled without saying anything. After a few seconds, she said, "Take your people and leave Bright Sword Forest immediately. Don't ever come back, or you will lose even more badly. Get lost now, while I don't want to kill anyone." T. Sun Xingmiao stood up majestically and said, "Why would the Hunters' Alliance fear a mere Bright Sword Forest like you? Brothers, let's attack together and kill this Lin Muyu." The crowd roared and drew their swords. Then, under Sun Xingmiao's lead, they leaped into the air and attacked like a swarm of locusts. "They're here! Sword formation!" The injured Shirhan shouted loudly, but Lin Muyu, who was in the air, only glanced at them and said nothing. Clang! In the piercingly cold light, the Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu pointed the blade forward and shouted in a low voice. The power of the holy martial arts poured into his body. For a moment, there was the sound of metal and stone colliding in the air. Behind him, countless bright giant swords appeared. These giant swords were of different shapes, as if they had been summoned from an ancient domain. According to Lin Muyu's will, they suddenly raged. Swish, swish, swish. For a moment the sky was filled with swords. The proud sword technique was indeed the ancestor of the sword Dao. Blood splashed everywhere in the air, and the attacking hunters were all torn apart by the sword chi of the proud sword technique. It was a tragic sight. They thought that they would not be killed, but they did not expect Lin Muyu to be so ruthless. The second move was already a killing move. The sword chi pierced through Sun Xingmiao's heart. This renowned expert in the eternal sword domain had died just like that. Close to 600 hunters had also died along with him. In just a short moment, all of them had perished in front of the bright sword forest's mountain gate. In the air, corpses kept falling to the ground. Many corpses fell directly off the cliff, and there was a rain of blood in the air. Oh my God! The beautiful eyes of Ru Yen, the eldest senior sister of the bright sword forest, were full of astonishment. How could he be so strong? Could it be that this is the proud sword technique that Master once mentioned? He managed to cultivate the proud sword technique in less than 10 days. Who the hell is he? Shirhan's gaze was indifferent. Martial God Lin Muyu, this is the martial god of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. He is too strong. I'm afraid he is already stronger than all the previous gods. The disciples of the bright sword forest were all dumbfounded. They had originally thought that it would be a catastrophe, but now, it had turned into a massacre. However, no one had expected that Lin Muyu would act so cleanly. She killed without hesitation and didn't leave any leeway. In the outer hall, Elder Tiannen stroked his beard and remained silent. With her back facing Elder Tiannen, Lin Muyu looked sharply at the few hunters left at the edge of the cliff and said, "Go back and tell your alliance leader that the killer is Lin Muyu and it has nothing to do with others. If you want revenge, look for me." Yes. The hunters kept quiet out of fear. Why aren't you getting lost? Yes, exalted goddess, we'll get lost, we'll get lost. Everyone fled. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and sheathed the Xianyuan sword. She turned around and flew to Elder Tiannan, saying, "Senior, the proud sword technique is indeed very domineering. Its power has greatly exceeded my expectations. I only wanted to kill 100 people, but I didn't expect the proud sword technique to be so powerful that I killed hundreds of people. I've sinned." Elder Tiannan smiled and said, "I heard that the Mahayana heavenly Tao is benevolent and compassionate. Young hero, you killed so many people in one go. Isn't this going against the Mahayana heavenly Tao?" Lin Muyu smiled and replied smoothly, "Senior, you may not know this, but I cultivate the way of killing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have obtained the title of martial god. The martial god's innate mission is to kill and be invincible. The Hunters League has been running amok in the eternal sword domain for a long time. If we don't teach them a lesson with blood, will they stop?" "I see." Elder Tiannan said, "What if this group of executioners doesn't stop? Then I can only enforce justice on behalf of the heavens and kill them all." "Enforce justice on behalf of the heavens." Elder Tiannan smiled and said, "I'm afraid that only you, the martial god, has the ability to say such words in this world. Let's go to the prayer altar. I want to recite a scripture to wash away the manic killing intent in your heart." Leah, who was at the side, raised her eyebrows and said, "Master can control it himself. There's no need for you to meddle." Obviously, Leah was very dissatisfied with Elder Tiannan's tone. After all, Lin Muyu's strength was already above Elder Tiannan's, but he still acted like an elder. On the other hand, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Leah, don't be rude. Senior, please. I really need to calm down and suppress the manic killing intent in my heart. The agitation brought about by the proud sword technique is too strong." "Yes, I know that feeling very well." Elder Tiannan glanced at the group of disciples and said, "The martial god and I will go to the prayer altar to cultivate. You guys clean up the courtyard and clean up the corpses of the hunters. Return peace to our bright sword forest." "Yes, master." In the prayer altar, a few people were sitting quietly. Elder Tiannan was reciting the Heart Sutra. Although Lin Muyu had never heard of it, he felt a sense of tranquility from the scripture. He closed his eyes and indeed, the manic killing intent in his heart gradually calmed down. Originally, he had planned to kill his way to the headquarters of the Hunters Alliance and kill to his heart's content. Now, he no longer thought about it. He just wanted to sit quietly in the prayer altar. After an unknown period of time, Leah, who was beside him, closed her eyes and cultivated the star technique. She was surrounded by starlight. When Lin Muyu opened his eyes, Elder Tiannin seemed to be able to sense it. He also opened his eyes and said with a smile, "Young hero, how do you feel now?" "Tranquility, indescribable tranquility." "That's good. Young hero's self-control is far better than mine in the past." "Senior, you flatter me." "Young hero, I have something to ask you." "Senior, please ask. How long do you plan to stay in the Bright Sword Forest?" "Senior, do you plan to let me go?" Lin Muyu was a little surprised. Elder Tiannan smiled and said, "Why, don't you want to leave?" "No." "Why?" "Cultivating in the Bright Sword Forest for a day is better than cultivating outside for 10 days. Lin Muyu explained. "But here, I can feel peace and tranquility. Furthermore, I have 2 reasons why I can't leave." "Young hero, please speak." "Firstly, a few hundred people from the Hunters Alliance died this time. They will definitely not let this matter rest. Very soon, there will be stronger people coming to find me. I was the one who started this feud, so I can't just leave. Secondly, I feel that my AO sword technique has not reached its essence yet. Currently, I have only grasped 10% of the AO sword technique. It is enough to kill people, but it is still lacking when it comes to fighting against the gods' destroying tower. I can feel that my strength is insufficient, so I can't leave yet." "Since that is the case, young hero, you can stay for as long as you want. However, I'm afraid that my disciples will make things difficult for you." "It's all right, I won't argue with them." Young hero's state of mind is much stronger than mine." "Oh," Lin Mu asked with a smile, "Senior, why do you say so?" Elder Tiannan stroked his beard and said with a smile, "When I was your age, if someone was disrespectful to me, I would definitely beat him up." Chapter 1229. Another 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the cliff of the back mountain, Lin Muyu sat quietly for another 5 days. In the drizzle, Leah squinted her beautiful eyes and asked, "Master, have you made any progress these days?" "Then it's a waste of time. How could it be?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and continued to sit on the rock. With a light wave of her finger, it was as if an invisible giant sword had sliced through the sky. Even the dense layers of clouds were sliced open. "Wow, it's amazing." Leah opened her mouth wide. "Master, I want to learn too. What kind of martial arts is that?" "Sword intent." Lin Muyu explained concisely. AO sword tactics is about sword intent. Those who really understand sword intent are able to control everything like a sword, including airflow and clouds. Master's sword intent is very powerful now. It can only be regarded as a beginner. Lin Muyu shook her head and smiled. To be honest, I felt that I had mastered 1/10 of the AO sword tactics in the first 3 days, but after 12 days of practice, I felt that I had only mastered less than 1%. The AO sword tactics is so profound that I may not be able to fully master it in my life. Master could defeat those bad guys from the Hunters League if he learned 1% of it. If he mastered it completely, wouldn't he be able to destroy a mountain with a flick of his finger? Lin Muyu chuckled. "Leah, do you think destroying a mountain is powerful?" Then what is powerful?" Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the tender leaves between the rocks and said, "It's easy to destroy the world, but to protect everything under the power of destruction is the real powerful martial arts. The AO sword tactics is very overbearing. The beginning is all about killing, but in the middle part, it all becomes the power of protection. The strongest power protects everything, slays demons, and wins every battle. This is the true meaning of the AO sword tactics." Leah giggled. "Master, Leah understands." In fact, the elder of Tiannan's cultivation of the AO sword tactics went astray because he didn't understand the true meaning of the AO sword tactics, right? "Shoo, don't speak so loudly, or Senior will regret it to death." Oh, Leah understands. In the evening, he brought Rhea to the canteen. The moment he entered, the two disciples bowed respectfully. Exalted Immortal, your meal is ready. Lin Muyu was surprised that there seemed to be more dishes on the table not far away. Ever since the battle at the mountain gate, the disciples' attitude towards Lin Muyu had changed a lot, and they were especially respectful towards her. Perhaps the Bright Sword Forest was the same as the human world, where the strong were respected. Only when you were strong enough would you be respected by others. Although this kind of respect was somewhat unsatisfactory, it was much better than being mocked and ridiculed by the other disciples. Lin Muyu nodded happily and brought Leah to eat. When Lin Muyu sat down, Ru Yen and Shirhan also came and sat on both sides of her. Ru Yen looked a little uneasy and whispered, "Exalted Immortal, please don't worry about what happened not long ago. It was us brothers and sisters who were too narrow-minded. It's okay, I've already forgotten. Why do you need to take it to heart?" Lin Muyu took a bun and said, "The Hunter Alliance may come again at any time. At that time, I'm afraid we'll have to fight side by side. We're on the same side, so there's no need to take it to heart. Thank you for your magnanimity, Exalted Immortal." Ru Yen smiled and secretly took something wrapped in oil paper from a disciple at the side. After opening it, there was a burst of fragrance. It was a roasted chicken. She smiled and said, "Exalted Immortal, the mountain gate of the Bright Sword Forest is cold, and they only have vegetarian food. Senior brother and I asked someone to buy this from the Snake Scale Valley to improve your diet. Try it?" Lin Muyu was stunned. "Is there a rule in the Bright Sword Forest that we can't eat meat?" "Yes, but there's no written rule that we can't eat meat. It's just that everyone abides by the rules." "Then let's eat together. Just give me a chicken wing." As she spoke, Lin Muyu plucked off a chicken leg and placed it on Leah's plate, which made the little girl overjoyed. The resources in the Eternal Sword domain were scarce, and eating meat was already an extravagant hope, let alone a treasure like roasted chicken. After the meal, everyone returned to their rooms, and Lin Muyu continued to meditate and cultivate. After an unknown amount of time, her spiritual perception suddenly jumped. Immediately after, an image flashed in her mind, and she seemed to see a person. A man dressed in black with a mask on his face said to Lin Muyu in a low voice, "What, you don't dare to come?" Lin Muyu's spiritual perception jumped again. There was indeed someone invading her EC. The Eternal Sword domain was indeed a place with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There was actually such an expert. Almost without thinking, Lin Muyu disappeared from where she was. She had already shattered the void and was 10 miles away. Woo! A cold wind blew. Although this place was still part of the Snake Scale Valley, it was now a desolate mountain range. Right in front of Lin Muyu, a person holding a black sword stopped in the air. It was the person that her spiritual perception had sensed. He had a burly figure and wore a mask. He smiled and said, "You're the Lin Muyu who killed Sun Xingmiao with one strike in the Bright Sword Forest?" "Yes, who are you?" Lin Muyu was fearless. "Haha." The person threw his head back and laughed wildly. He said, "Who I am is not important. What's important is whether you're willing to accept my challenge." "Challenge?" Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. She said, "You want to use my name to climb up? I'm afraid you found the wrong person. Since you want to use me to climb up, why don't you tell me your name?" "What a joke. I didn't come to challenge you for fame. I just want to defeat you." As he spoke, he slowly unsheathed his long sword. It was a treasured sword with a blade that was as sharp as the moon. The moment the blade was unsheathed, its sharp light turned into many fine wind blades that swept out in all directions. Wherever the wind blades passed, rocks shattered and trees snapped. This person was not an ordinary expert. Even an expert like Sun Xingmiao could not be compared to him. Lin Muyu could not help but frown. What kind of power is this? The Eternal Sword Domain, the supreme realm of sword intent. Of course, I named it myself. I've sealed this power for 50 years and have not used it. Now that I've met an expert like you, it's finally worth me using it for real." He smiled proudly. "But are you afraid?" Lin Muyu smiled. Interesting. It seems that you're the person I've been looking for. What do you mean? I came to the Eternal Sword Domain to find the power of the Eternal Sword Domain. Isn't your power exactly what I'm looking for? Let's fight. Without another word, the black longsword was raised and the sword will was unleashed. Before the blade even landed, the ground had already begun to crack. Wherever the sword will went, the mountains beneath Lin Muyu crumbled, forming a huge canyon. Just as Ria had said, the sword will of this person before her had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. He was a strong opponent. This was the strongest person Lin Muyu had met after becoming a titled martial god. Buzz. He raised his finger and activated the proud sword technique. A ray of golden light shot up into the sky. It was also a sword intent, but the proud sword technique seemed more calm. It collided with the opponent's long sword. Bang! There was a strong wind, and both of them retreated dozens of meters. The first confrontation was considered a draw. Clang! The Xinyuan sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu held the sword and lowered her arm. The blade also hung low, but the awe-inspiring sword intent had already raged around her. In the blink of an eye, it was as if thousands of golden Xinyuan swords were dancing around Lin Muyu. Her opponent was not afraid either. He raised his black sword straight, and the surrounding black sword intent surged like a tornado. When experts fought, there were no more moves. There was only the collision and suppression of sword intent. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Between heaven and earth, streams of sword chi raged. Both Lin Muyu and her opponent were surrounded by a huge sphere. The sword chi rampaged, and wisps of sword intent power collided and exploded in the middle. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The impact seemed to destroy heaven and earth. In the strong wind, Lin Muyu's short hair danced. She looked at her opponent with clear eyes. She activated the power of holy martial arts and the proud sword technique, and constantly launched a series of attacks to attack her opponent. Her opponent did not give in at all. He released the power of the eternal sword realm. Streams of black sword intent raged everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the air was filled with the sharp sound of the collision of sword intent. The surrounding heaven and earth also lost color because of the battle between the two. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Lin Muyu's attacks were like continuous waves, wave after wave. However, her opponent's skills were extremely profound. The sword intent seemed to be endless, which made Lin Muyu feel a little weak. This person was extremely strong. Under the double attack of the power of holy martial arts and the proud sword technique, he did not show any signs of defeat. After attacking for an unknown period of time, the other party suddenly withdrew his aura and said, "Enough. What, you don't want to fight?" Lin Muyu stopped using the proud sword technique and asked in surprise. Her opponent's expression couldn't be seen clearly under the mask, but he was obviously smiling. "This is the eternal sword realm. My sword intent originates from under this blue wave's great land. You are a genius. I don't want you to die here. So, you continue to cultivate. I will come to find you again until the day you can defeat me." "Then, what is your purpose in challenging me?" Lin Muyu asked. "To become stronger." He smiled and said, "I have already seen your flaw. Although your eternal sword realm is strong, its weakness is also very obvious. That is, you are benevolent. You are not willing to kill with every move. Your benevolence will become your biggest weakness. Next time, you may not be so lucky. Remember, once you reveal a flaw, I will kill you without mercy." Lin Muyu smiled. "I will continue to show mercy because you can't beat me. You can't kill me, but I don't want to kill you." Her opponent didn't speak, but the black sword intent lingering around his arm became more and more intense. "What, are you angry?" Lin Muyu asked. Her opponent still didn't speak. He just quietly withdrew from the battlefield and disappeared. Boom! The ground exploded, and a wave of power crashed into the ground from where he was standing. Sure enough, she was angry. Chapter 12:30. Lin Muyu looked at the gradually disappearing figure of her opponent from afar with a calm gaze. She lowered her head and looked at her palms. Wisps of steam were rising from them. The battle just now had been so intense that she had forgotten about the pain. This person's eternal sword realm was not just ordinarily powerful. It was even more powerful than the AO sword technique. However, if they were to really fight, even if Lin Muyu did not have the confidence to win, she was at least confident that she would not lose. At this moment, a ray of blue light bloomed behind her. Someone had come. His aura was calm and composed. It was Elder Tian. "Senior, you're here?" Lin Muyu smiled. Elder Tian's gaze swept across the ground. Looking at the mess left by the battle, he frowned and said, "Such profound power is enough to destroy the world. Young hero, who did you fight with just now?" A man in black with a mask. He said that the martial arts he used was the eternal sword realm. It was very overbearing and fierce. Does Senior know of such a person? There is one. Elder Tian took a deep look at the north and said, "The Lord of the City of Dawn, Meng Taifeng, is also recognized as the strongest in the eternal sword realm. Meng Taifeng spent more than half of the past 100 years cultivating in seclusion. No one knew what he was cultivating. It seems that he was cultivating the power of the eternal sword realm that you are pursuing." Lin Muyu shook her head. "The power of the eternal sword realm that I am pursuing is definitely not his eternal sword realm." "Oh!" Elder Tian was stunned. "What do you mean?" Lin Muyu smiled indifferently. "Senior, the eternal sword realm is overbearing and fierce. When attacking, there is no room for leeway. This is definitely not the true way of the king. On the contrary, the AO sword technique is both offensive and defensive. It has the imposing manner of a king. Therefore, I believe that the power that I am pursuing is the AO sword technique, not the eternal sword realm." Elder Tian smiled. "So, young hero has already broken through the first level of the AO sword technique. Otherwise, it would be difficult to comprehend it. I congratulate you. I should be the one thanking you, Senior." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "My AO sword technique is still very immature, and I also want to spar with this Meng Taifeng again, so I need to continue to stay in the Bright Sword Forest and disturb you. I hope you don't mind. It's an honor for a martial god to stay in my Bright Sword Forest to cultivate. Don't stand on ceremony." "Yes." At this moment, two more figures appeared behind him. It was Ria and Zhang Wei. Master. Leah rushed forward and grabbed Lin Muyu's hand. She asked worriedly, "Master, are you all right?" "Don't worry, Leah. Who is Master fighting with here?" Ria looked at the man-made canyon below and could not help but feel a chill in her heart. Lin Muyu said, "Meng Taifeng." The guard was shocked. The martial god has already fought with Meng Taifeng? What's the outcome? This was the thing that the guard was most concerned about. After all, he had betrayed the Hunters' Alliance and was destined to be hunted. If Lin Muyu defeated Meng Taifeng, it meant that she could also defeat Luo Xingji. In this case, he would be in a safe situation. Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Currently, it can only be a draw. However, if I am given more time to cultivate, I believe I can win." The guard was overjoyed. That's great." Ria said, "Master, your aura is weak. Let's go back to the Bright Sword Forest and have a good rest." Lin Muyu nodded. Just as Ria had said, when she used the Proud Sword arts to fight with Meng Taifeng, she had entered a state of selflessness when fighting with an expert. She had even forgotten that she had consumed more than half of her strength. If Lin Muyu was like this, Meng Taifeng would not be any better. The elder of Tiannan was silent. He was surprised that the martial god Lin Muyu's cultivation was vaguely above Meng Taifeng's. However, he was relieved that Lin Muyu did not have the intention to fight for hegemony. If Lin Muyu really wanted to fight for hegemony in the Eternal Sword domain, this originally peaceful continent would soon be plunged into a bloody battle to the death. Everyone returned to the Bright Sword Forest and cultivated on their own. August 15th, Eastern Heaven Realm. On a barren spirit mountain, starlight shone. Spirit mountains were not like the mortal world. They were the condensation of power and core. Every beam of starlight was a seed, and the germination of these seeds also reflected the prosperity and decline of a plane. Rustle, rustle. Chu walked on the desolate mountain path. With every step he took, a layer of green ripples appeared under his feet. This was the ability of the god of recovery. Green buds began to grow in the surrounding barren grass, and everything began to recover again. Behind him, Qingping smiled and said, "Chu is indeed powerful. With you around, the speed of the Eastern Heaven Realm's law recovery will far surpass that of the other 3 great heaven realms. This is really great." Chu said respectfully, "Lord Qingping is too kind. This is just my meager power as the god of recovery." "You are too modest." Qingping shrugged, dusted the shawl behind her, and said with a smile, "Chu, I heard that you watched Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi grow up?" "Yes, I guess so. Tell me quickly, how did Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, and you know each other? These 3 little guys have now become the rulers of a region. I really want to know about their past." In the past, Chu bent down and caressed a withered flower. Under his palm, the flower slowly regained its color. He said with a smile, "At that time, you was still a complete rookie. He even got into trouble and offended a local tyrant city lord. Later on, Her Royal Highness Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi joined forces to protect him. After that, you stayed in the temple to cultivate, and I occasionally taught him 1 or 2 moves. At that time, I only felt that you was as close to me as my own grandson, and I also felt that he was a promising talent. But I really didn't expect that you would grow to such an extent. The only martial god in the world, the strongest war god, who would have thought? Yes, who would have thought?" Qingping smiled softly and said, "I also didn't expect the Eastern Heaven Realm to fall to such a state. Yes, the high and mighty gods have now become the target of the demon realm's hunt. How ironic." Chu raised his head and looked at the distant stars, but suddenly seemed to sense something. He couldn't help but frown and said, "Lady Qingping, can you see anything in the universe? Is there?" Qingping also looked, but how could she see it with her mortal eyes? Chu, on the other hand, felt it clearly. A thick barrier was slowly condensing between heaven and earth, and behind the barrier appeared countless dense auras. It was the evil aura of the people of the demon realm, but he couldn't see it. It seemed that it was blocked by the barrier. This demonic aura could be hidden from the eyes of others, but it couldn't be hidden from the eyes of Chu. As the god of revival, he was far more sensitive to the aura of all living things than Ziyao and the others, who were second-class superior gods. Things are not good. The demon realm is going to invade. Chu stood up and said, "Lady Qingping, let's hurry back and inform Ziyao Fairy. Prepare as soon as possible, otherwise I'm afraid the Eastern Heaven Realm will not be able to defend." Qingping said in astonishment, "Chu, what's going on? The army of the demon realm has attacked many times before, but you weren't so nervous. Why are you so nervous this time?" "It's different this time." Chu gritted his teeth and said, "I sense the aura of the Holy Emperor, and there is a kind of world-destroying power surging. It's the God-destroying tower. Ziyan has come in person." Go quickly inform Ziyao." "Okay." Chu took the lead and flew away. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a ray of light that swept across the sky and entered the Hall of Great Accomplishment in the Eastern Heaven Realm. Ziyao seemed to have also sensed something, but it was a little blurry. When she saw Chu flying in, she couldn't help but ask, "Chu, what's wrong?" "The demon realm is about to invade. Ziyan has come with the God-destroying tower, the Holy King, and countless experts of the demon general level. Fairy Ziyao, please make a decision as soon as possible." "Oh my God." Ziyao was well aware of Chu's ability to sense things and said without hesitation, "I will inform the Demon Emperor and the Western Divine Realm now. If necessary, let them reinforce. Otherwise, the Eastern Heaven Realm will definitely not be able to defend." Ziyao still did not move. Her telekinesis had already passed through the 10,000 layers of space and headed to the Northern Heaven Realm. After informing the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor of everything, the Demon Emperor immediately said that he would return to the East Heaven with the small mirror. Then, Ziyao informed the people of the Western Divine Realm that once the Eastern Heaven Realm faced the danger of extinction, the Western Divine Realm would definitely reinforce. All right, assign the orders. Xiao sat on the throne of the Eastern Heaven Realm and said, Sun Feng, Qing Ping, Chu Chu, Han Zi, each lead a team to guard the 4 sides of the Eastern Heaven Realm. Once the people of the Demon Realm invade, immediately fight back. We must not let them enter the Hall of Great Accomplishment easily. In the sky, there was a faint sound of thunder. Behind the transparent barrier, the demon chi surged, but no one could see it at all. They could only feel the pressure of death growing stronger. God, please bless us, Xiao murmured. But was praying really useful? If it was, there probably wouldn't be a heaven's tribulation. One by one, everyone stood on top of the spirit mountains, preparing to face the enemy. In the sky, the rumbling of thunder resounded. Suddenly, a purple light pierced through the barrier. A petite figure carrying a battle axe descended from the sky. The axe head emitted a light that soared to the sky, looking like she was going to split the entire Hall of Great Accomplishment in one strike. Wishful thinking, Xiao shouted. Her figure suddenly became bigger, condensing her aura into the image of impartial goddess in the sky above the Hall of Great Accomplishment. She raised her palm, and a bright light burst out. Pang! Under the heavy blow, Bai Feng Holy King was knocked back along with his battle axe. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but he couldn't help but reveal an evil smile. Impartial goddess Xiao, you're good. However, even if you can block my attack, can you block the army of the devil world? Children, destroy these gods. Behind him, countless devil luos surged in from the huge crack in the barrier. They were so densely packed that they looked like black clouds crushing over. Sun Feng held his weapon and looked up at the sky, muttering, That brat Yu isn't here, and without the power of the Holy Marshal, we're all mortals. What should we do? This is getting serious. Chapter 12:31. Formation, face the enemy. Qing Ping shouted. The army of mortals could only rely on long-range weapons, which were the bows and crossbows of the Eastern Heaven Realm. Although these bows and crossbows were very lethal, and once they hit a vital point, it was enough to kill the devil luo, but, after all, their power was limited, and they were unable to resist the devil luo army that filled the sky. Chu Chu stood majestically on the top of the mountain, looking at the densely packed Mara in the sky. He took a deep breath, raised his sleeves, and with a shout, the ground seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. This was the power of life. In an instant, the air was filled with vines, thorns, and so on, entangling Mara and slamming them to the ground. However, they could only entangle them, not kill them. After all, the attack power of the god of revival was still quite limited. Ocean wave. On the other side, sea god Han Zi held a spear in his hand. After a low roar, waves swept through the air, engulfing a group of Mara. This was a real attack, suffocating Mara to death. It could be considered a real and effective attack. However, it seemed to be far from enough. There were too many Mara falling from the sky. Buzz! A giant axe fell on a spirit mountain not far away. Suddenly, the mountaintop was split open, and Sun Feng and the others were blown away by the powerful demonic flames. It was unknown whether Sun Feng was alive or dead, but it was certain that many crippled gods had been chopped into a pile of meat paste. In the clouds, a huge arm of light grabbed the giant axe and slowly descended. Another holy king, Hellfire Holy King, one of the controllers of power in the demon realm. With just a swing of the axe, Sun Feng's team was scattered. Swish! Xiao floated to the bottom of the Hall of Great Accomplishment. The northern heavenly wheel in her hand pointed straight in the direction of the northern heaven realm, paving a fast passage. She gently raised the long sword in her hand, turning it into invisible sword chi that continuously bombarded the group of Mara in the sky. For a moment, the sky was filled with blood rain. The power of Xiao, a superior god, was after all not to be underestimated. It was so much so that even the Holy King Bai Feng and the others avoided her and didn't dare to fight Xiao head-on. However, at this moment, a huge blood-red palm descended from the sky amidst the rolling dark clouds. It was like an attack from a giant god, falling straight towards Ziyao's head. Bang, bang, bang. Under the enormous pressure, the glazed tiles of the Hall of Great Accomplishment shattered, whereas Ziyao gritted her teeth and stood there majestically. All the divine energy in her body condensed on her shoulders to resist the pressure of the enormous palm. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, the sounds of explosions from the collision of the two divine powers rang out incessantly. Ziyao raised his head to look at the clouds. There, a pair of eyes was also looking at him. It was a pair of eyes filled with hatred and resentment. Boom! A loud sound rang out. In the end, Ziyao's strength was still unable to contend against the opponents. She was forced to kneel on the dragon bones of the Hall of Great Accomplishment, coughing up a mouthful of blood. She was already seriously injured. In the sky, the giant palm also slowly retracted. A figure descended from the sky. The surrounding Mara all knelt down, giving off the feeling of a monarch descending upon the world. The person who came was none other than Ziyan. The god-slaying tower in his hand was glowing with a faint golden light. After so many days, the god-slaying tower was becoming more and more perfect. "You must be impartial goddess Ziyao?" he asked. "Yes, so what?" Ziyao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, raised her hand to grab her sword and fearlessly looked up at Ziyan. "Nothing much, I just feel that a greater god of the Mahayana realm shouldn't be like this. It's like a joke. You all claim to be just, but in the end, you, impartial goddess, are nothing more than an ant in my eyes. What right do you have to represent justice? From what I see, only I, Ziyan, can represent justice. From now on, call me Impartial Prince Charming, Ziyan." He laughed loudly. The group of Mara all respectfully greeted, "We greet Impartial Prince Charming." Ziyan's laughter became even more arrogant. Ziyao gritted her teeth. The sword in her hand suddenly turned into a cold light and shot out, turning into a dark green dragon in the air, attacking the opponent with overwhelming power. But Ziyan didn't move at all, waiting for her attack. The dragon's power kept hitting the god-slaying tower's shield, but in the end, it couldn't hurt Ziyan at all. Clang! Ziyao's sword bounced off the edge of the god-slaying tower, falling into the endless darkness. Ziyan laughed loudly. The god-slaying tower in his hand glowed, saying, "Ziyao, you laughable Ziyao, you think you can kill me? Do you know what I've been doing for the past half a month? I've been cultivating the god-slaying tower. The current god-slaying tower's degree of perfection is unprecedented. I can continuously use the god-slaying tower's destructive attack 10 times. You laughable Mahayana realm gods are nothing but cannon fodder under the god-slaying tower. What else do you think you can do? You're spouting nonsense." Ziyao's shoulders trembled. "You don't believe me?" Ziyan suddenly raised his arm. Instantly a vast purple devil flame light shot out from the god-slaying tower. The light expanded and enveloped a person in the air not far away. It was sea god Hanzi. Hanzi cried out in pain. He couldn't withstand the might of the god-slaying tower. His body quickly disintegrated into dust. Even his god deity was instantly absorbed by the god-slaying tower. Phew! Ziyan opened his mouth and sucked the essence of Hanzi's god deity into his mouth. He smiled and said, "The power of a god is actually so delicious. This is great. This is great. Sea god Hanzi." Ziyao stood there in a daze. A powerful sea god couldn't even withstand one attack from the god-slaying tower? "Did you see that?" Ziyan laughed insolently. The god-slaying tower suddenly pointed towards Chu not far away. He shouted, "Old fellow, it's your turn." The god-slaying tower once again spun rapidly. A beam of powerful demon realm energy shot out, directly locking onto Chu. "Chu, be careful." Qing Ping was frightened to the point that her face turned pale. Chu raised his sleeves, squinting his eyes as he looked at the beam of light approaching. With a hong sound, the god-slaying tower's light penetrated through Chu's body, but it only scattered a few falling leaves. The surrounding green quickly gathered to form Chu's body. "What a good god of recovery!" Ziyan raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Forget it, I can't waste the god-slaying tower's power on an old thing like you." With your cultivation, you can't do anything to me, so what if I spare your life? Chu Chu was speechless. Ziyan was right. Ziyan had used the god-slaying tower to kill 2 holy emperor, absorbing their cultivation, and now he had also devoured sea god Han Zi's cultivation. The current Ziyan could already be said to be the strongest person in the world, and Chu Chu's law power was heading towards recovery. His attack power was even weaker than some attack law lower gods. Ziyan, who had the protection of the god-slaying tower, was not someone he could threaten. It's your turn, impartial goddess. Ziyan smiled and raised the god-slaying tower, saying, accept the judgment of impartial Prince Charming. Weng weng weng. The god-slaying tower spun rapidly, starting to accumulate and reflect the entire demon realm's power. Almost everyone's gaze fell on Xiao. She was a Mahayana heavenly Tao upper god. If even Xiao was killed, then who could fight against Ziyan, who had the god-slaying tower? Xiao did not plan to escape, nor could she escape. Even Lin Muyu, the martial god, could not escape the god-slaying tower's lock. It would be even more difficult for her to escape. A powerful beam of light suddenly descended. Xiao's shoulders trembled, tears flowed out of her eyes. Demon Emperor, goodbye. Yu Shaoyin Shaoxi, goodbye. However, just when everyone thought that Xiao was dead for sure, a figure suddenly appeared above her head. That figure was so majestic, like a mountain blocking all damage for Xiao. The winter god's treasured mirror in his hand glowed even brighter, facing the god-slaying tower's light, a beam of ice light attack. The 2 powerful forces cancelled each other out in the air. The small mirror is still useful. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed maniacally. Ziyan, you be *starred. Continue, let me see how powerful this god-slaying tower of yours is. Xiao's face was full of tears. Demon Emperor, darling, go away first. Demon Emperor said. Okay. Xiao floated away, and it became a confrontation between the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Ziyan. Is it the winter god's treasured mirror? Ziyan smiled faintly. 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, do you think a mere winter god's treasured mirror can withstand the power of the god-slaying tower? How do you know if you don't try? Then come. Ziyan roared, and the god-slaying tower launched the 4th attack. The 2 artifacts collided again. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes burned. Come again if you have the guts, don't be discouraged after 2 or 3 attacks. Damn it. Ziyan roared angrily. He was angered by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. He used all his strength to activate the god-slaying tower, and this was a continuous 5 attacks. Pung pung pung. Densely packed collision sounds came from the winter god's treasured mirror. Not far away, Xiao shouted. The god-slaying tower can only attack 10 times in a short period of time. There is only 1 left. Haha. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed very brightly. Come again, this is your last chance. If you can't kill me, I will twist your head off and use it as a urinal. Ziyan gritted his teeth. You are courting death. God-slaying tower, final attack. Hong. This time, it was blocked by the winter god's treasured mirror again. However, from the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's point of view, there were already countless cracks on the back of the winter god's treasured mirror, and with a pa sound, the entire mirror was about to collapse. Damn, the small mirror is about to shatter. Oh my god, luckily it's not mine. He secretly rejoiced, but both his legs gathered godly power, and with a roar, he kicked the air. 7 luminaries stars transformation. Beams of starlight shot towards the sky. Ziyan couldn't block it for a moment, and he quickly retreated, but the pitiful Mara was blasted into pieces. Retreat! Retreat! In the sky, there were shouts of retreat from the demon world army. They could only retreat, because on the surface, Ziyan had already lost, but they didn't know that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's winter god's treasured mirror was destroyed, and the god-slaying tower could be used again after accumulating enough power. After watching Mara's army disappear, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's treasured mirror in the hands of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor turned into pieces. Demon Emperor, this? Xiao was shocked. How are we going to explain this to Dong Ming? It was clearly a borrowed winter god's treasured mirror, but it has already been destroyed by us? The seven luminaries' demon emperor's gaze was deep, and he took a deep breath. Ziyao, the mirror you used to dress yourself in the back hall of the Great Accomplishment Hall, do you think it looks like the winter god's treasured mirror, if the mirror was painted with that kind of pattern? Ziyao, Northern Heaven Realm, Black Rock City. Dong Ming smashed the table with a palm. I have never seen such a shameless person. Chapter 1232. In August, the weather became incomparably hot. All of Bugu Mountain seemed to have turned into charcoal. The plants on the mountain were constantly evaporating from the heat, and even the branches were beginning to droop. Bugu Mountain was the place where Tsangnan Gong Su Jiantao had died in battle. Now, countless craftsmen were moving wood up the mountain. A long time ago, Qin Yin had ordered the construction of an ancestral hall for Su Jiantao on Bugu Mountain. Now that the money had finally arrived, construction could begin. On the mountain peak, Lin Sun, Zhang Wei, Guanxing, and the others were wearing robes and armor. They were herding their horses on a flat grassland. Further away, a person was sitting on a giant rock. It was Feng Jixing, who was cultivating the martial god technique. Damn, the weather is so hot that I'm dying. Zhang Wei took off his armor as he said, "It's such a hot day, yet the commander is sitting so high up to cultivate. Isn't he afraid that the hot rocks will burn his buttocks?" Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. "Do you think the commander is you? The commander's cultivation is so much stronger than yours and mine. This temperature is nothing to him." Luo Yu frowned. "Have you realized that ever since the commander started cultivating on the mountain yesterday, the temperature on Bugu Mountain has increased significantly? Today, it's almost impossible to stay here." Zhang Wei was taken aback. "You mean, it was the commander who turned Bugu Mountain into a furnace?" "I'm just saying that it's possible." Everyone looked at Feng Jixing in the distance. They saw him sitting there like a stone statue, not moving at all. His brows were slightly furrowed, but there seemed to be something strange around him. That's right, there was something strange. The wind began to blow. Although it was only a gentle breeze, it made everyone feel a boundless coldness and violence. In the blink of an eye, the wind became stronger and stronger, causing many branches on Mount Bugu to snap. Even a royal flag nearby had been snapped. Everyone's faces paled and Luo Yu shouted, "Everyone, hide behind the rocks to avoid the strong winds. Quick!" The craftsmen all dodged. Zhang Wei and the rest, on the other hand, circulated their dou qi to resist this gust of wind. All of them were still looking at Feng Jixing. Everyone knew that this kind of change in heaven and earth was definitely caused by someone, and the person who could cause this kind of change in the laws of wind was probably only him. Sure enough, an invisible force pulled Feng Jixing's body into the air. Beams of golden light condensed into a huge image of a deity. It was a Dharma body. About half a minute later, the Dharma body descended from the sky and entered Feng Jixing's body. Thunder rumbled in the air as the heavenly melody scroll slowly unfurled. Goddess Nuwa's Dharma body appeared. She looked at Feng Jixing with a gentle gaze. "Feng Jixing, you are upright, courageous, and decisive. Now that you have gained the approval of the heavenly melody scroll, you will be granted a second-tier superior god Dharma body. You will be given the title God of Wind. You will wield the heavenly Tao of wind and be granted the ability to control the wind. May you uphold the heavenly Tao and continue to fight for the world." Feng Jixing's body was enshrouded in bright golden divine light. He slowly knelt on one knee in the air and said respectfully, "Thank you, Goddess Nuwa. Feng Jixing will never bring shame to the heavenly Tao of Mahayana." Nuwa smiled from ear to ear. Her Dharma body slowly dispersed. Feng Jixing jumped down from the clouds. The two sabers at his waist clanked against each other. Luo Yu, Zhang Wei, Guanxing, and Lin Sun quickly knelt down. They cupped their fists and said, "Greetings, Commander, greetings, righteous God." Feng Jixing nodded happily. "No need to stand on ceremony. Since this is the case, I'll be leaving too." Zhang Wei was stunned. "Commander, you're leaving just like that? Yes, we don't know what's happening in the heaven realm. Above the shattered cauldron realm is the heaven realm. If the heaven realm is damaged, all of us will be damaged. Moreover, you, Her Highness Een, and Princess, she might need my meager strength. Then, what about the shattered cauldron realm? What about the celestial pole continent? Commander, once you leave, what about these 21 provinces? Gwahuili has already sent people from the Congress to take over the government affairs of the celestial pole continent. Rest assured. You just need to restrain the troops under you. Feng Jixing nodded. I'll inform Gwahuili and let him manage this land carefully. If he oversteps his boundaries, I can descend to take his head at any time. Then we can rest assured. Lin Sun smiled cheerfully. Feng Jixing nodded. Then let's do it this way. The 4 of you will be in charge of the various armies of the celestial pole continent. You must obey my orders. Otherwise, I will descend to teach you a lesson. Yes, Commander. The 4 of them laughed. Then, I should be leaving too. Feng Jixing raised his head and looked at the sky. Suddenly, with a whistling sound, his body turned into a tempest and soared into the sky. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and the tempest broke through the golden heavenly gate. Feng Jixing's body turned into rays of light and entered the heavenly gate. Thunder roared and lightning flashed. Strong gales blew, and the world was in a state of turbulence. This lasted for close to 2 minutes before it stopped. After it stopped, it immediately became calm again. The power of gods was always so hard for mortals to reach. Zhang Wei looked at the sky and licked his lips. I wonder if I, old Zhang, will also be able to ascend to become a righteous god one day and live for 10,000 years. Then how worthless would righteous gods become? Luo Yu teased. Old Luo Yu brat. Zhang Wei's palm landed on Luo Yu's shoulder, causing him to break out in cold sweat. I, old Zhang, am at least stronger than you. Luo Yu grinned. Brute, let's go. Let's go down the mountain and return to our respective territories to take charge of the military affairs. We need to stabilize the military affairs of the various provinces before the news of Commander's ascension spreads. In the eastern heaven realm, a muffled thunder sounded in the sky above the Hall of Great Accomplishment. It was as if a hole had exploded in the sky. Following that, a storm began to swirl around as the power of the Mahayana heavenly path surged over. Ziyao stood in the main hall, the corner of her mouth curled into a beautiful arc. She said, Our Mahayana heavenly path wind god is here. On the side, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi smiled knowingly. It was very rare that Feng Jixing could actually comprehend the Mahayana heavenly path so quickly in this day and age where it was hard to find a Mahayana heavenly path god. His talent was indeed not to be underestimated. The 7 luminaries demon emperor had gone to the northern heaven realm to return the remains of the winter god's treasured mirror and would not be back for a while. As compensation, he had to help the northern heaven realm resist Mara's army for a while. Therefore, the eastern heaven realm was now under the control of Ziyao, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. Swoosh! A bolt of lightning condensed into a human figure in the sky, surrounded by raging winds. It was the figure of Feng Jixing. Even the armor he was wearing was the armor of the Qin Empire's marshal. Brother Feng, you're here. Qin Yin had already changed the way she addressed him. After all, this was the heaven realm, and Qin Yin would be Lin Muyu's wife in the future. Therefore, it was natural for her to change the way she addressed him. Feng Jixing turned around and landed on the glazed tiles of the Hall of Great Accomplishment. He knelt on one knee and said respectfully, Feng Jixing pays his respects to your Highness Yin and Princess Shi. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Qin Yin smiled and said, This is the God realm, no longer the shattered cauldron world. Our original identities are no longer the same. Brother Feng, you can just call me Xiao Yin. You don't have to call me your Highness anymore. This. Feng Jixing hesitated for a few seconds and stammered, Xiao Yin? Sai, forget it. I'll just call you your Highness Yin. Your Highness can call me whatever you want. Anyway, I, Feng Jixing, can't change the way I address you. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, Xiao Yin, let him be. Brother Feng has always been like this. At the side, Xiao said, Feng Jixing, since you've been conferred the title of Wind God, I wonder what the Mahayana heavenly god power that you've mastered looks like. Can you demonstrate it to me so that I can confirm what kind of position in the god realm I'll give you? Feng Jixing was stunned. But do I need to demonstrate my talent for the position in the god realm? Of course. It's the same everywhere. Those who are suitable for offense will be the commander, and those who are suitable for defense and support will be in another position. What about you? What's your ability? Xiao's eyes lit up. Obviously, she wanted to know how capable Feng Jixing, the wind god, was. Feng Jixing nodded and smiled. Actually, I don't know how strong my ability is now. However, if Fairy Xiao wants to see it, let's see it together. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also watched from the side with anticipation. Besides, Chu Chu, Sun Feng, Xing Ping, and the others also watched from afar. No one knew how capable wind god Feng Jixing was, but it would be clear soon. Swoosh! Feng Jixing stood majestically in the Hall of Great Accomplishment. He opened his palms slightly, and wisps of white qi waves surged in his hands. They looked like compressed gusts of wind. Other than the gusts of wind, there were also small thunderbolts surging in his palms. However, no matter how one looked at it, it looked like a child's game. It was just a toy in his palms. However, at this moment, Feng Jixing suddenly let out a low roar. Instantly, a beam of light descended from the sky and tore through the clouds. On the distant spirited mountain, strong gusts of wind started to wreak havoc. The heavens and the earth turned dark. Thunderbolts fell, and the indestructible gusts of wind even tore apart the hard rocks on the spirited mountain. The gusts of wind condensed into invisible dimensional wind blades in the air. Moreover, they covered a very wide area. This was no longer a child's game. Oh my God! Xiao opened her small mouth. What a strong destructive power! It's really a gift from the heavens to the wind god of the Eastern Divine Realm. Feng Jixing suddenly retracted his 5 fingers. Suddenly, the destructive power of the storm in the distance disappeared as if it had never happened. The power of controlling the wind, how mysterious! Qin Yin's gaze was gentle. She smiled and said, It seems that Brother Feng's power is purely offensive. It's extraordinary. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. That's right. Xiao said cheerfully, Wind God Feng Jixing, I confer you the title of one of the Eastern Divine Realms marshals. Are you willing to do so? Although, we don't have many god-ranked soldiers right now. Feng Jixing smiled. Of course I'm willing. I'll follow Fairy Xiao's instructions. Although he had already obtained great power, Feng Jixing still maintained the humility and caution he had when he was in the mortal realm. He cupped his hands and said to Chu Chu, who was in another hall not far away, Chu, it's been a long time. Chu Chu twirled his beard and smiled. General Feng, it's been a long time too. Qin Yin suddenly smiled. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and asked with a smile, Xiao Yin, what are you smiling about? Qin Yin's voice was gentle. We're only left with you and Sister Chu Yao. Previously, we said that our family would reunite in the God realm. It seems that it's going to happen soon. I just don't know when you will come back. That's right. That guy, he's still not coming back. Where did you go? Feng Jixing was stunned. The Eternal Sword Domain. It said that he went to search for the strongest power. Wow! Feng Jixing took a deep breath. I wonder how strong he will be when he comes back. Chapter 12:33. Eternal Sword Domain, late at night. Lightning flashed again 5 kilometers away from the back mountain of the Bright Sword Forest. This time, it was another match between 2 peerless experts. However, there were many more spectators this time. Elder Tiannan, Ria, Changwei, Shirhan, Ru Yen, and the others were all there. They stood quietly on a hill far away from the dense forest, watching the sword Qi and the domain collide in the distant sky. Sword Domain, as the name suggested, was a domain of the sword. Almost every sword domain was formed by countless sword Qi and sword intent. The power of the sword Dao determined the strength of the sword domain. At this moment, the two of them were about to be evenly matched. Boom! Lin Muyu raised her palm toward the sky. The moment it suddenly fell, it also brought with it a majestic sword chi. It was as if it had cut the sky open. The power of the sword domain crushed down, and the surrounding forest collapsed. Even the ground sank a little. Arg! Not far away, Meng Taifeng was in the eternal sword domain. He put his palms together and stood there like a god. He activated the power of the eternal sword domain to resist Lin Muyu's mighty attack. For a moment, it was as if thousands of sharp swords were dancing around him. In the blink of an eye, they condensed into a huge sword that faced Lin Muyu head-on. Bang, bang, bang. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The moment the two huge swords collided, the smaller swords destroyed each other and exploded. The air seemed to solidify. After a full 3 seconds, the two huge swords disappeared at the same time, turning into an awe-inspiring wave of air that rippled out. Everyone was caught off guard. The huge rock under their feet crumbled in the blink of an eye. This powerful wave of air had the power to destroy heaven and earth, and it almost turned the entire forest into a barren land. Be careful! Elder Tiannan flew forward and opened his palm, condensing a strong wall to protect Ria, Ru Yen, and the others behind him. Chang Wei was dumbfounded. My God, are these two even human? They are gods, not humans, Shirhan said. Enough. Let's stop here for today. Meng Tiefeng's face was hidden behind the mask. He cupped his fists and said, Young hero Lin, your sword realm has indeed surprised me. However, you still can't beat me. If we continue to fight like this, one of us will definitely be injured. Let's call it a day. I hope you can go back and train well. Otherwise, the next time we meet will be the day of your death. Lin Muyu whistled and said with a bright smile, Yes, Mayor Meng. Meng Taifeng was shocked. How did you recognize me? Lin Muyu said, In the entire eternal sword domain, apart from the city of Dawn's lord, Meng Taifeng, no one else has such powerful sword domain power. City Lord Meng, although it's a draw this time, you've lasted at least 3 minutes longer than the last time. Meng Taifeng muttered, The increase in strength leads to the shortening of time. This is to be expected. Young hero, please go back and train well. Next time, I want to see you stronger. Otherwise, I will definitely kill you with my sword. Alright, farewell. Farewell. Meng Taifeng suddenly turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the horizon. Lin Muyu flew back to the crowd. She looked much calmer than Meng Taifeng. She said, Senior, what do you think of this match? Elder Tiannan stroked his beard and smiled. I'm afraid there's no one in this world who cares more about his reputation than Meng Taifeng. He clearly lost to you in terms of strength, but he still refuses to admit it. With your progress in understanding the AO sword technique, I'm afraid it will be even harder for Meng Taifeng to deal with your attacks next time. Next time, you will definitely win. Not necessarily. But Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Meng Taifeng is also a rare genius. After I fought with him last time, I felt that I would definitely be able to defeat him next time. But this time, as you can see, I didn't really defeat him. Meng Tiefeng's cultivation has actually improved a lot in these 10 days. His strength has increased by at least 20%. It's really incredible. Elder Tiannan smiled. Since ancient times, the strongest have always been like this. The stronger they meet, the stronger they become. It's Meng Tiefeng's luck to meet an opponent like you. Otherwise, do you think he, the Lord of the City of Dawn, would come all the way to the Bright Sword Forest to learn from you? Lin Muyu nodded. Her face revealed a faint confidence and calmness. She said, It doesn't matter. In any case, Meng Taifeng will definitely lose the next time we fight. But since he cares so much about his reputation, I can't let him lose too badly. Otherwise, he will go back and commit suicide. That wouldn't be good. What do you plan to do, young hero? I don't know either. We can only wait and see. In the wee hours of the morning, a dart was shot into the mountain gate of the Bright Sword Forest. After shattering a stone pillar, it pierced through a disciple's chest and nailed him into a huge rock with blood stains on it. An animal skin paper was tied around the dart, and the words, "Letter of Challenge," were written on it. The news quickly spread throughout the Bright Sword Forest. The letter of challenge from the Hunters' Alliance had finally arrived. Bright Sword Forest's main hall. Elder Tian Nan unrolled the bloodstained scroll of his disciple. There were only a few words on it. I heard that the Bright Sword Forest has the intention to compete with our alliance. Therefore, I, Luo Xingji, will lead the alliance to attack the Bright Sword Forest in 3 days. I will present the head of the scoundrel Lin Muyu to Elder Tian Nan. Otherwise, the Bright Sword Forest will be bathed in blood. Luo Xingji pays his respects. Buzz! A wisp of raging flame spread and burned the letter of challenge. Elder Tian Nan smiled faintly. Luo Xingji, you've become more and more arrogant over the years. Now, you've become so unbridled that you no longer care about the Bright Sword Forest. Master, Shirhan said, since ancient times, we've always dealt with whatever comes our way. If the Hunters' Alliance dares to come, the Bright Sword Forest dares to fight. If we cower and advance, that's not the spirit of the Bright Sword Forest. Elder Tian Nan smiled. My disciple, do you think that the Bright Sword Forest can defeat Luo Xingji's alliance? This, you also know that they can't. Why do you have to be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot? Master, what should we do? You don't have to do anything. Elder Tian Nan looked at Lin Muyu, Leah, and the others who were seated in the VIP seats. He twirled his beard and smiled. The trouble from last time was caused by young hero Lin. Naturally, we'll leave this trouble to young hero Lin. If Luo Xingji leads the alliance to attack the mountain, the disciples of the Bright Sword Forest are only allowed to watch from the sidelines and are not allowed to fight. Let young hero Lin do the fighting. Chang Wei said softly, Damn, this old man is really heartless, Leah giggled. Lin Muyu stood up and cupped her fists. I'll follow Senior's orders. If Luo Xingji dares to attack the mountain, I can defeat them alone. Young hero, how do you plan to defeat the Hunters' Alliance with tens of thousands of people? Since Luo Xingji wants to die, I'll send him off. Ru Yen opened her mouth in shock. Lord Martial God wants to kill Luo Xingji? Yes. If Luo Xingji dies, the Hunters' Alliance will definitely collapse. I think that Meng Tiefeng's character is much better than Luo Xingji's. This is also a good thing. Lin Muyu said with a deep gaze. The Hunters are unscrupulous in killing people for food. This is already against the natural order. Dispersing them is also a good thing for the Eternal Sword domain. Elder Tian Nan said, That's right. Dispersing the Hunters is indeed a good thing. However, does young hero Lin have the confidence to fight against 10,000 people alone? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Senior, do you know why the AO sword technique is called the AO sword technique? The AO sword technique cultivates to be insufferably arrogant. As long as I want to, I can kill 100,000 people from the Hunters' Alliance by myself. Everyone was stunned. There were probably only 2 people in the Eternal Sword domain who had such arrogance. One was Lin Muyu, and the other was Meng Taifeng. It was just that Lin Muyu was a nobody in the Eternal Sword domain, while Meng Taifeng had long since become a grandmaster. The reason why Lin Muyu could be so arrogant was naturally related to the cultivation of the AO sword technique. Now that he had cultivated about 50% of the AO sword technique, his strength had greatly increased. He was even several times stronger than when he had first become a martial god. It would be strange if Lin Muyu was not arrogant. 3 days passed quickly. During these 3 days, Lin Muyu's cultivation of the AO sword technique had improved a lot. His cultivation was improving day by day. Even if he was sitting or sleeping, he could still cultivate the AO sword technique in his mind. During this period of time in the Bright Sword Forest, Lin Muyu had made the most progress. The 3rd day was the day of the Hunters' Alliance's attack. In the early hours of the morning, the disciples began to prepare. Although they did not participate in the battle, they were ready to fight. Lin Muyu was dressed like a Confucian scholar. He did not even bring the Xinyuan sword. He stood alone on the hilt of the huge sword-shaped stone sculpture in front of the mountain gate. He looked proudly into the distance, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Hunters' Alliance. Not long after, densely packed figures appeared in the canyon like locusts. They flew along the rocks and streams. There were so many of them that it was impossible to count them. The Hunters' Alliance was an invincible existence in the eternal sword domain. Everywhere they went, they were like locusts. Apart from Meng Tiefeng's City of Dawn, there was almost no city that had not been looted by the Hunters' Alliance. Swoosh, 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 more and more figures landed in the rocks and forests in front of the mountain gate. They covered the entire mountain. Most of these people were at the god realm. Of course, they were all old gods. None of them had insight into the laws of the Mahayana heavenly way. Not long after, everyone knelt down and shouted, "Welcome, Alliance Leader." Luo Xingji had arrived. To Lin Muyu's surprise, Luo Xingji was an even more refined and handsome man. He was dressed in white and held a paper fan in his hand. His handsome face was filled with murderous intent. He stepped on the air and came over. His body was surrounded by flames and his face was full of a twisted smile. He said, "Are you Lin Muyu?" "That's me." Lin Muyu stepped on the air, her cloth shoes creating a ripple of sword chi. She walked towards Luo Xingji with a calm smile on her face. "Luo Xingji, didn't you want to kill me? Why aren't you doing it?" Luo Xingji remained silent, but his face was already drenched in sweat. The person in front of him was far more powerful than his subordinates had described. She was dozens of times stronger. Chapter 12:34. Luo Xingji swept his gaze across the bright sword forest's mountain gate and could not help but smile. What? Does such a huge bright sword forest only rear a bunch of cowards? Do they want you to block my tens of thousands of hunters by yourself? That's right. Lin Muyu said casually and smiled. I alone am enough. How dare you? A burly man standing not far behind Luo Xingji flew up with a steel saber in hand. His face was filled with anger as he said, "Alliance leader, let me deal with this Lin Muyu first." Luo Yang said, "The Fire Thunder Guardian deity must be careful." Yes, Alliance leader. Needless to say, this burly man was also a guardian deity of the Hunters' Union, one of Luo Xingji's 7 guardian deities. The flames and lightning on the saber resonated with each other, and a snake-like glow flew around it. The surrounding aura instantly became violent, causing the fallen leaves in front of the mountain gate to roll. He brazenly slashed his saber at Lin Muyu. If the saber landed on the ground, the large boulder in front of the mountain gate would probably be split in two. As expected, none of the 7 guardian deities were vegetarians. However, Lin Muyu's calmness was beyond imagination. When the Fire Thunder Guardian deity's saber was less than 5 meters away from her head, she leisurely raised her finger. Her index and middle fingers formed a sword, and suddenly, a rainbow soared into the sky and pierced through the Fire Thunder Guardian deity's heart. Fresh blood spurted into the air. The protective chi of the flaming thunder Vajra was penetrated by the sword chi like cotton. His body flew backward and fell on the grass. Fresh blood spurted out for 10 meters. It was very frightening. Oh my God! The eyes of the group of hunters were filled with horror. The legendary 7 guardian deities couldn't even withstand a single round. Who was this young expert in front of them? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Luo Xingji, why send your subordinates to their deaths? Why don't you do it yourself? Oomph! Luo Xingji gently waved the paper fan in his hand and smirked. Is killing a mere Fire Thunder Guardian deity worth it for you to be so arrogant? Don't forget that I have thousands of hunters. Can you kill them all? It can give it a try. Lin Muyu smiled brilliantly. Go. Luo Xingji raised his paper fan, his handsome face twisted with anger. Attack him together. I don't believe he can withstand the attack of millions of hunters alone. Everyone drew their weapons and flew in all directions, like a swarm of locusts pouncing on a rice field. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu was not a rice field. The moment the dense crowd crushed towards Lin Muyu, the people on the periphery could no longer see his figure. They could only see lightning, wind blades, frost, stone awls, and other attacks exploding in the air. He'll be fine, right? Ru Yan's pretty face was filled with worry. Ria, on the other hand, raised her eyebrows and said proudly, "How could these rotten tomatoes and potatoes be a match for my master? Don't worry, my master is much more powerful than all of them." "Is that so?" Ru Yan smiled faintly. Ria's trust and admiration for her master, Lin Muyu, was almost unconditional. In her heart, Lin Muyu was an invincible existence, and the scene in front of her seemed to confirm all of this. Boom! The space suddenly distorted and exploded. With Lin Muyu as the center, a huge sword domain sphere surged out. It was originally only about 3 meters in radius, but it continued to surge and expand. The periphery of the sphere was full of the raging Xinyuan sword qi. Anyone who touched it would die immediately. Blood constantly splashed in the air. In an instant, the sphere had reached a radius of nearly 20 meters, and countless people had been killed. "What the hell is this? Break it for me!" A Vajra-level hunter roared. Everyone raised their weapons and unleashed their divine power to bombard the sphere. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly, but no one was able to penetrate the sphere. On the contrary, the rampaging sword qi around the sphere killed another group of people. In the blink of an eye, the ground was already covered with the corpses of the hunters. They were born to hunt and eat others, but at this moment, they had become the prey of others in a sorry state. In the forest and at the foot of the mountain, there were countless hunters pouncing on Lin Muyu. There were tens of thousands of them, and they were like a rushing river. "Don't stop attacking!" Luo Xingji roared. This was the only way he could think of. Things had developed far beyond his imagination, and Lin Muyu's strength was even more unimaginable. However, if he did not kill Lin Muyu today, Luo Xingji would probably not have a foothold in the Eternal Sword domain. However, Luo Xingji could not understand where Lin Muyu's strange power came from. "Luo Xingji." Lin Muyu's low voice came from the sword domain sphere. "How many people do you want to die before you're satisfied?" Boom! The front of the sphere split open, and a mighty sword aura slashed out with enough force to split the heavens and the earth, directly blasting into the densely packed crowd. In an instant, over 1,000 hunters were reduced to ashes, and the sword aura continued to fall towards Luo Xingji's head. Luo Xingji did not expect Lin Muyu to be able to attack him when she was surrounded by tens of thousands of people. He waved the paper fan in his hand, which was made of a special material, and a strong wind rapidly condensed in the air. It was Luo Xingji's ultimate skill, Wall of Wind. Bang! The sword qi slammed into the wall of wind, and it was like hitting the surface of an umbrella. Ripples spread out, and then the wall of wind shattered with a loud bang. Luo Xingji's face immediately turned pale. His unique ultimate skill could not even block a sword qi from Lin Muyu from 300 meters away? Luo Xingji was even more shocked when he raised his head to look. Lin Muyu was flying toward him at high speed, surrounded by sword qi. She easily weaved her way through the thousands of soldiers and horses. She raised her hand and drew the Xinyuan sword, and slashed it down heavily on Luo Xingji. The momentum of the sword was like a rainbow, as if the mountains and rivers were pressing down. It seemed simple, but it made Luo Xingji feel a chill run down his spine. It was a terrifying sword that Luo Xingji had never seen before, and it was absolutely difficult to resist. Luo Xingji's domain was like a mirror-like lake. When faced with an enemy's attack, it was like facing a stone falling into the water. However, Lin Muyu's sword contained the mysteries of heaven and earth, making Luo Xingji feel like he was not facing a sword, but a rain falling from the sky. Even the most perfect defense could not withstand such a cold and dense attack. Ugh! Luo Xingji quickly retreated, and at the same time he held the paper fan with both hands. He let out a roar, and a whirlwind of black flames surged around him. Black flaming wind was the ultimate skill that Luo Xingji had cultivated for many years. However, Lin Muyu's sword still arrived as expected, and it landed directly on the back of the paper fan. With a "purng," the fan's ribs broke into pieces, and Luo Xingji's black flaming wind was cut apart like tofu. Under Lin Muyu's attack, Luo Xingji did not have any strength left, and he was sent flying while vomiting a mouthful of blood. Luo Xingji fell onto a green rock at the edge of the cliff, and he vomited blood in a sorry state. He raised his head to look at Lin Muyu with a pale face, only to find that Lin Muyu's sword was lowered and that Lin Muyu was looking at him indifferently. Lin Muyu's gaze made Luo Xingji's hair stand on end, and he could not help but ask, "What are you trying to do?" "Nothing." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, and she smiled. "Luo Xingji, based on your cultivation, you are no match for Meng Taifeng. You will definitely die under Meng Tiefeng's eternal sword domain in 5 moves. So, can you explain to me why you are equally famous as Meng Taifeng?" "That's just the flattery of others. What does it have to do with me?" "Is that so?" Lin Muyu walked forward step by step and said, "I've changed my mind. There's no point in killing you, but I want you to do something for me. Otherwise, I'll still kill you." "What is it?" Luo Xingji saw a glimmer of hope, and at the same time he looked at the broken ribs of the fan in his hand and was extremely shocked. The ribs of the dragon bone fan were even harder than divine weapons, and yet they could not even withstand a single blow. Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently and said, "I want you to immediately give the order to disband the Hunters' League and let them live on their own." "What?" Luo Xingji was greatly shocked, and his handsome face was full of unwillingness. After all, the Hunters' League was a great cause that he had managed for many years, and now that it was disbanded just like that, one could imagine the deep sense of loss in his heart. "Die, or disband the Hunters' League. It's your choice," Lin Muyu said indifferently. In the sky, the densely packed Hunters' League had surrounded them, and all of them were ready to fight. They were shouting words like, "Save the League leader," but they still maintained a distance of 100 meters. Just now, they had been scared out of their wits by Lin Muyu's strength, so they did not dare to actually attack. Taking the initiative to attack now would only be courting death. Luo Xingji's entire body was trembling. He still had at least 80% of his divine power left in his body, but he was no longer able to resist the pressure of Lin Muyu's powerful domain. That mountainous proud sword technique's sword domain was like an otherworldly power, and it was impossible to resist. "I agree," he said after coughing up a mouthful of blood. "Then make the announcement," Lin Muyu said indifferently. Luo Xingji straightened his body and said loudly to the people in the sky, "Luo Xingji, announce that from today onwards, the Hunters' League is officially disbanded. All of you can run away and leave. From today onwards, the Hunters' League will no longer exist, and you will no longer be bound by anything." The Hunters' League looked at each other in silence. Lin Muyu laughed loudly. "What are you waiting for? Get lost. Are you waiting for me to change my mind and kill all of you hunters?" The crowd scattered like a forest of birds flying away in an instant. It was a depressing scene. Sigh. Luo Xingji sighed and slowly knelt on the green rock. He said, "Lin Muyu, are you satisfied now? You've destroyed everything I had, everything I cherished as much as my life." "No, I haven't destroyed everything you had yet." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "But it will be soon. Are you ready?" "Ready for what?" "To cripple your martial arts and dispel your cultivation so that you can no longer do evil." "What?" Luo Xingji stood up abruptly. "Lin Muyu, you've gone too far." "Buzz." Lin Muyu stood majestically without a change in her expression, but wisps of golden brilliance condensed into sword chi that flew out and severed Luo Xingji's vital meridians. Even his spirit bones and major meridians were destroyed at the same time. Chapter 12:35. Come out. She opened her palm, and a bright forged immortal lattice was forcibly sucked out from Luo Xingji's will see. Luo Xingji howled in pain, and his body twitched. However, Lin Muyu did not show any mercy. She directly absorbed the forged immortal lattice into her palm, and then dispersed the sacred martial energy on her body. Luo Xingji knelt on the ground. His body was covered in blood and the robe he was wearing was already dyed red. His meridians were all injured and his cultivation had completely dissipated. However, Lin Muyu had shown mercy and did not destroy all his meridians. He still had the ability to be an ordinary person, at least doing some manual labor. However, this was probably more painful than killing him. But why didn't you just kill me? Luo Xingji shouted. Lin Muyu turned around and walked towards the mountain gate. You were bullying the weak when you killed the innocent. Now, I'll give you a chance to be the weak and let you feel the feeling of being bullied. I don't need it. Kill me. Luo Xingji's face turned pale. Lin Muyu smiled and looked at Elder Tian Nan in the outer hall. Senior, Luo Xingji's karma is too deep. Why don't you take him as your disciple? I believe the Bright Sword Forest is enough to cleanse Luo Xingji's killing karma. Elder Tian Nan nodded happily. Shirhan, Ru Yen, send Luo Xingji to the guest room. Yes, master. When Shirhan and Ru Yen carried Luo Xingji's body, Luo Xingji looked angry. I don't need it. The Bright Sword Forest can cleanse my killing karma, but what about you? Lin Muyu, who will cleanse your killing karma? Lin Muyu turned around and said, Me? I'll chant the Mahayana Heart Sutra every night. Can you compare? Luo Xingji was speechless and was carried by Shirhan and Ru Yen towards the prayer altar. Master. Leah flew down from the roof and held onto Lin Muyu's arm. Master, are you all right? So many people attacked you just now. Are you hurt? How could I be? Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, They can't hurt me. Leah, you don't have to worry. Let's go to the back of the mountain to continue cultivating. Time. What Lin Muyu needed the most was still time. He couldn't return to the divine realm with the half-practiced AO sword tactics. That was not enough to fight against the power of the devil realm. He must practice the complete AO sword tactics to be invincible under the deterrence of Ziyen and the God-destroying tower. At this time, in the depths of the demon realm, in the deep dark universe, the stars were shining brightly. In the depths of the nebula, a huge whirlpool bathed in the galaxy, like a huge eye, but the eye was blood red. Two figures flew past and went straight into the blood-red whirlpool. They were Ziyen and Bai Feng Holy King, who were holding onto the god-destroying pagoda. This is the demon eye? Ziyen stopped and asked as he looked at the shining demon eye in the distance. Yes, Lord Ancestor Emperor. Bai Feng looked a little perturbed and said, Ancestor Emperor, are you really going to remove the seal for that old monster? Of course. Ziyen had a confident expression on his face and said with a smile, In the ancient demon-sealing war, only he escaped, which created the prosperity of the demon realm today. As long as he is willing to help me, why worry about not being able to eliminate those Mahayana God of Heaven's way? But Bai Feng was a little hesitant and said, The old monster has been sealed for so many years, and his cultivation is already unfathomable. Once he is released, Ancestor Emperor, do you have the confidence to restrain him? Don't worry, I have the God-destroying tower. Moreover, Bai Feng, you don't even know the secret of the God-destroying tower. Oh? What secret? Ziyen smiled and said in a low voice, The reason why the God-destroying tower was forged was not to eliminate gods, but to eliminate demons. The power of the God-destroying tower against demons is many times more terrifying than the power of gods. I have already swallowed the power of the two holy emperor. Do you think that with the addition of the God-destroying tower, we won't be able to defeat a mere old monster? I see. Since Ancestor Emperor is so confident, then let's go in. Ziyen raised his palm and instantly, a crack appeared on the demon eye. The two of them jumped in and felt that their bodies had instantly entered an extremely cold place. It was pitch black inside the demon eye, and there were giant vines that were covered in frost crisscrossing around it. It was as if they had formed a giant net that reached the sky. He's there. Bai Feng called out softly. Ziyen flew over and raised the God-destroying tower. Under the illumination of the light, they could see the crisscrossing vines intertwining like a spider's web. In the center, there was a white-haired old man sealed. His body was already covered with plants, and his meridians were pierced by the vines. His entire body was almost rotting, and even his beard had started to corrode. Frost covered about 10 centimeters of it, and it was crystal clear. Is he still alive? Bai Feng was stunned. He's alive. Ziyan's cultivation was much higher than Bai Feng's. He stretched out his hand and touched the frost. In the blink of an eye, the layer of frost quickly melted, revealing the old man's true appearance. He was incomparably old, and the flesh on his face was sunken in. Upon closer inspection, one could see that the old man's major meridians and vital points had all been nailed by golden nails. Those were the god-locking nails, divine objects from the ancient era. Pulling out the god-locking nails was equivalent to removing the seal. This was something that no demon had ever dared to do in millions of years. Are we really going to do that? Bai Feng and the Holy King were a little nervous. Of course. Ziyan said indifferently, "This old man has been lonely here for hundreds of thousands of years. We can't be so indifferent anymore. There are good demons too. We have to respect the old and love the young. Isn't that right, Bai Feng?" Bai Feng frowned and was speechless. Ziyan smiled faintly and reached out to pull out the soul-locking nail from the elder's first target. However, the old man did not move at all. It was as if he was dead. His body was withered. Bai Feng stood at the side anxiously. Ziyan continued to pull out the god-locking nails. He pulled out 7 or 8 of them in a row. At this moment, the old man suddenly sat up and took a deep breath. His withered body seemed to be inflated. He opened his rotten eyes. There was only white in his eyes. It was very scary. After a while, his pupils appeared. He stared at Ziyan and Bai Feng and said, "What time is it now?" "It's been 210,000 years since Senior was sealed." Ziyan said, "Why did you save me?" The old man said indifferently. Ziyan took a deep breath and took a few steps back. He knelt and said, "I am the current lord of the demon world, Ziyan. But you are my senior." Ziyan begs Senior to come out and destroy the Mahayana Heavenly Tao for the demon world. Mahayana Heavenly Tao? Yes, the Heavenly Tao created by ancestor god Pangu's 3 disciples. It's that old man again. The old man grinned in a horrifying manner. He stared straight at Bai Feng and said, "I agree to your request. However, I also have a condition. Give this girl to me. I want to exercise a bit." "What?" Bai Feng Holy King was shocked. He looked at Ziyan for help. Ziyan smiled faintly. He bowed and said, "Senior, Bai Feng is my right-hand man. You can choose any woman in the demon world. If you like, you can go to the divine world and catch a Mahayana Heavenly Tao goddess to enjoy." The old man stood up and said, "I can't even satisfy such a small request. What cooperation is there to talk about?" As he spoke, a formless aura spread out. Instantly, all the vines in the demon eye were shattered. Even Ziyan and Bai Feng had to use their demon flame to protect themselves. "Senior, what do you think this is?" Ziyan raised his hand and the god-destroying pagoda shone brightly. With a buzz, a blood-colored light descended from the sky and enveloped the old man's head. The entire demon world started to tremble and the destructive power was ready to be unleashed. Ziyan looked at him and said, "Senior, do you recognize this item?" "A godly weapon of the future." The old man said, "You actually have such a treasure." Ziyan smiled and said, "Therefore, the relationship between me and Senior is not a cooperation, it is an order. I am the master of the devil world, and as the master of the devil world, I command you. 9 netherworld demon monarch, serve me, otherwise, I will not seal you, I will only make you disappear into thin air." The demon king of the 9 underworlds trembled. He squinted at Ziyan. After a while, he knelt down and said, 9 underworlds await your orders. Let's go back to the Fekta temple. Once the demon chi in the god-destroying tower is full, we will attack the divine world again. This time, we must destroy the entire Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Yes. At the side, Holy King Bai Feng looked at Ziyan with gratitude. If not for Ziyan, she, the Holy King, would have become the old monster's bedding. Lanyan City, dusk. It was quiet in the spiritual medicine division. The medicine refiners talked and laughed as they went to the canteen. During this period of time, there were almost no more battles in the empire. Therefore, The spiritual medicine division used less medicine. Everyone could have a good rest. Great Deacon. A young lady who was as agile as a swallow flew over. It was Lan Yen. She said with a smile, "Good news. There's news from the celestial pole continent. It said that Prince Exen has already ascended to become a god." Chu Yao put down the medical book in her hands, raised her head, and said with a smile, "I already know." Lan Yan's eyes widened. How is that possible? This news has just reached the Zhe Tian Palace. I just came back from the Zhe Tian Palace. How could the Great Deacon know about it earlier than me? Actually, I already knew about it last night. Big Brother Feng has been conferred the title of Wind God. It's really amazing. How did the Great Deacon do it? Over here. The Heavenly Melody Scroll has never appeared in the sky. I don't know either. It's just that I had a dream in the middle of the night. I dreamt of all this and it felt extremely real. Could it be that the Great Deacon already knows how to foresee the future? How would I know? Chu Yao giggled. Little lass, let's not talk so much. Let's go and have our dinner. I heard that the Zhe Tian Palace has increased the food expenses of our spiritual medicine division quite a bit. There'll definitely be good food for dinner. If we're late, there won't be any. I'm not afraid. Would I still have to worry about not being able to have the best dinner in the spiritual medicine division if I were to follow the Great Deacon? Chapter 12:36. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. The seemingly calm heaven realm was surging with undercurrents. Within 7 days, the eastern heaven realm had added another 6 upright gods, each from a different plane. Unfortunately, these 6 upright gods were all untitled and had no special abilities. Their combat power was also far less than those titled upright gods, and the influence they could have was even less. On the other hand, the Western Divine Realm won with numbers. Shi Yen had used the light raw stone to create more than 50 battle angel old gods. Looking at the 4 great heaven realms, the Western Divine Realm had become the most powerful one. At night, the river of stars gurgled, and the light of the stars rippled. It was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Shi Yen sat at the highest peak of the Spirit Mountain, watching the streams of Star River flowing around her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with regret. She said faintly, "The power of the demon realm is constantly stirring. It won't be long before their next attack. I don't know if we can resist the next time." "We can definitely." Lao Hua sat at the side, putting down the recast longsword. "Is Xin back?" "Not yet. After all, Xin and Shao Shi are the righteous gods of the Eastern Heaven Realm. We can't keep them in the Western Divine Realm. The gods in the Eastern Heaven Realm are desolate. They need their power even more." Shi Yen looked up at the starry sky and said, "Eva, I feel a strong force surging in the demon realm. Their next attack will be no small matter. We have to be on guard." "Sister, the Western Divine Realm will definitely go all out." Shi Yen nodded and didn't say much. She just let the power of the moon flow through her fingertips. She was the moon goddess. After her promotion, her strength had increased several times. The source of her power was the power of the moon. As long as she used the power of the moon well, she might have a chance to turn the tide. At this moment, it was also nighttime in the Eternal Sword domain. Cold winds rustled, and the forest behind the bright sword forest was desolate and cold. The roars of the crypt fiends as they hunted for food could be heard from afar. However, to the 2 experts, these roars were like the cries of birds, and did not pose any threat at all. Swoosh, 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 rays of curved sword chi circled around Meng Tiefeng's arm. His face was hidden under the mask as he sneered, "Young hero Lin, I heard that you've defeated Luo Xingji and dismissed the Hunters League. You even forced Luo Xingji to stay in the Bright Sword Forest and learn from him. Is that true?" "It's true." Lin Muyu smiled. "Why, does the Chancellor have any objections?" "Haha, I don't have any objections. It's just that the Eternal Sword domain has maintained this balance for tens of thousands of years. Now that such a huge change has occurred because of your greed, those hunters who have escaped will definitely wreak havoc everywhere. The entire Eternal Sword domain will become even more chaotic. Oh! Meng Taifeng stood in the wind and said in astonishment, Hero Lin, you don't intend to dominate the Eternal Sword domain? As long as I can defeat you, I will dominate. Come on, lad. Meng Taifeng waved his sleeves and attacked with a strong gust of wind. The overwhelming sword chi surged towards him like rain. Indeed, in a short 7 days, the power of Meng Tiefeng's sword domain had increased to another level. This person was truly talented. Lin Muyu also flew forward. She raised a finger and thousands of swords shot out. The sword domain of the proud sword technique became stronger and stronger. In addition to the power of holy martial arts, her strength was already above Meng Tiefeng's. Clang, clang, clang. In the air, dense sparks flew. Rays of sword chi made clear sounds as if they were real weapons colliding. Moreover, it was thousands of long swords colliding at the same time. The aura was like a raging torrent. However, Meng Tiefeng's years of cultivation were obviously more experienced. He was actually able to control wisps of sword chi to launch additional attacks. Clang! Lin Muyu's Xianyuan sword was unsheathed. It shone brightly and slashed in the air. Rays of golden sword chi shattered Meng Tiefeng's sword domain. On the ground, rubble flew everywhere. The light was terrifying. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Elder Tiannan, Ria, Zhang Wei, and the others narrowed their eyes as they watched the battle. Their faces were filled with solemnity. These two people are the two strongest people in the Eternal Sword domain, right? Ru Yen asked cautiously, afraid that she would hurt her master's pride. Elder Tiannan laughed. That's right. In terms of strength, there is no third person who can compete with them. One is the talented lord of the City of Dawn, the other is the martial god chosen by the heavens. These two people would be a disaster in any world. Now that they have appeared together in the Eternal Sword domain, it is a great misfortune for the Eternal Sword domain. Ria pouted. Senior, Master is a good person. Meng Taifeng is also a good person. Why is it a great misfortune? A battle between two extremely strong people is naturally a great misfortune for the world. Old man Tiannan stroked his beard and said, Tonight, a winner will be decided. Who will win? Zhang Wei asked. I don't know. Elder Tiannan shook his head and smiled. Perhaps it depends on who is smarter. Bang, bang, bang. 2.5 kilometers away, the whirlwind created by their battle exploded in the air. The shockwaves swept across the plains. Even the crypt demons were frightened and fled. In the air, Lin Muyu and Meng Tiefeng's auras were still steady. The battle between the sword domain had turned into a clash of swords. After dozens of exchanges, the Xianyuan sword and the black sword had suppressed each other. Sizzle, sizzle, the surface of the black sword glowed. Meng Taifeng knew that he could not hold on for much longer. The reaction of the black sword was just a warning. On the other hand, Lin Muyu seemed to be at ease. This made Meng Taifeng feel humiliated. As the Lord of the City of Dawn, the King of the Eternal Sword domain, was he going to lose to this young junior? It was another heavy and powerful strike. Strands of sword wool surrounded the blade. In a battle between two peak experts, every strike was not simple. It was a strike that could split the mountains and split the earth. Lin Muyu could see that Meng Tiefeng's aura had begun to become chaotic. This strike had almost used up all of his strength. Therefore, she did not say much. She gripped the Xianyuan sword tightly with both hands, activated the proud sword technique, and swept out. Bang! The two swords collided. Light shot up into the sky. A piercingly cold airflow swept out, causing the hair and cloaks of the two to dance wildly. At the moment when the swords collided, Lin Muyu felt that Meng Tiefeng's strike was not simple. There was an endless stream of sword wool surging in the blade. This strike that seemed to have stopped was actually still in progress. Waves of sword wool turned into domain power and blasted into the Xianyuan sword. Lin Muyu looked up at Meng Taifeng, only to find that Meng Tiefeng's eyes were a little proud. He lowered his arms slightly, and the proud sword technique surged out. Strands of sword wool raged out and wrapped around the two like waves. Lin Muyu's strength was at least 20% stronger. For a moment, Meng Taifeng felt a sense of suffocation. When his aura was almost unable to continue, Lin Muyu pulled out her left palm and gently aimed at Meng Tiefeng's face. Samsara. The surrounding aura was almost sucked dry in an instant. Meng Taifeng suddenly froze at this moment. Images of the past kept flying in his mind. Those days of war, the days when he lost his family, the screams of his wife, the wails of his children, and the tragic scene when his entire clan was exterminated emerged one by one. Then there was the scene of falling leaves and flying flowers. Everything returned to the original, dust to dust and dust to dust. And he was just a wisp of dust and an aura in the vast thousand worlds. The enlightenment brought about by samsara made Meng Taifeng unable to move. At this moment, he realized how terrifying Lin Muyu's cultivation and state of mind were. This young man was not as simple as he had imagined. But at this moment, Lin Muyu was holding the sword with one hand. Obviously, she could not compete with the black sword in terms of strength. Clang. With a crisp sound, the Xinyuan sword flew out of his hand, flipped through the air, and fell into the dark forest, piercing straight into the rocks. At the same time, Lin Muyu's body was hit by the power of the eternal sword domain. She retreated again and again, looking a little embarrassed. She turned around and stood still in the strong wind. With a slightly shocked expression, she cupped her hands and said, "City Lord, I've lost." Meng Taifeng did not feel the slightest joy of victory. Instead, he was extremely shocked. He said, "This battle is not about who won or lost, but I wonder if Lord Martial God would mind making friends with me, Meng Taifeng, from the Eternal Sword Domain? A sinner whose entire clan was exterminated, who was exiled, and whose hands are stained with blood." Lin Muyu smiled. "City Lord, I don't mind if you don't mind me looking down on you." Good, good, good. Ha. Meng Taifeng looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. "It's enough to have a confidant in life. I never thought that I, Meng Taifeng, would have a close friend here. Martial God, I admire your magnanimity and magnanimity. Why don't you bring your friend to Dawn City as a guest? I will treat you with great hospitality. What do you think?" Ah. Lin Muyu was a little hesitant. Behind her, Elder Tian Nen smiled. "Lord Martial God, since City Lord Meng has invited you with great hospitality, let's go." Leah asked loudly, "City Lord, do you have good food in Dawn City?" "Yes, we have everything." Meng Taifeng laughed. Leah said, "Master, take me with you." Lin Muyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Then I'll have to trouble you, City Lord. When is the best time to go? There's no time like the present. Come to Dawn City now and stay for a few days. I can also let martial gods study the ancient martial arts in Sky Feather Grotto." "Oh, Sky Feather Grotto? Ancient martial arts?" "That's right. How else do you think I mastered the Eternal Sword Realm?" At this moment, Lin Muyu was tempted. A person who mastered martial arts would definitely be proficient in all kinds of martial arts. At the very least, he would have to understand them. It was necessary to go to Dawn City to take a look. "All right, let's go now." "Haha, that's great. Let's go." Lin Muyu pulled out the Xinyuan sword from the air and left with Ria, Chang Wei, Shirhan, Ru Yen, and the others who wanted to go with her. Chapter 1237. As dawn approached, rays of light shone from the eastern horizon, piercing through the clouds and onto the land. Just like the rays of light, the city stood tall in the middle of the mountain range. It was bright and golden, and the flag of the city of dawn fluttered in the air. It was incomparably prosperous, far surpassing the scale and prosperity of the other cities in the Eternal Sword Domain. In this barren plain, the city of dawn was simply a spectacle. With one hand behind his back, Meng Taifeng flew in the air against the wind. Suddenly he raised his left hand and took off his mask, revealing the determined face of a middle-aged man. Just as Lin Muyu had predicted, Meng Tiefeng's appearance was a reflection of the heart. Meng Taifeng was a straightforward person with a heroic spirit. "Here, this is my city of dawn." Meng Taifeng smiled proudly. A city that took tens of thousands of years to build. It can accommodate millions of people. I have established laws and an army to govern the entire city of Dawn. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. City Lord, you are doing this to benefit the people. If I were the City Lord, I would expand my territory and build more City of Dawn. I would rule over the entire City of Dawn. That would be difficult. Meng Taifeng shook his head. Those who are exiled to the Eternal Sword domain are not easy to deal with. Which one of them is not an expert with hands stained with blood? These people do not submit to the rule, and they do things their own way. I have tried a few times, but I have always failed. That's true. Lin Muyu did not say anything else. She followed Meng Taifeng to the City Lord's mansion. As expected, it was a splendid palace. As the symbol of the highest power in the Eternal Sword domain, Meng Tiefeng's residence was naturally very luxurious. After stepping onto the steps of the palace, the guards on both sides knelt down and said in unison, "Greetings, City Lord." Lin Muyu was speechless. This was what it felt like to be an emperor. The guard rubbed his nose resentfully. "City Lord, don't tell me you have a harem of 3,000 beauties here?" Harem of beauties? Meng Taifeng seemed to feel insulted. He raised his eyebrows. "How dare you speak of me like that? Or you?" Under Meng Tiefeng's awe-inspiring aura, the guard trembled and could not say a word. On the contrary, Ria was pure and naive and was not afraid of Meng Taifeng at all. She smiled and said, "He is a man with a very tough life." Meng Taifeng glanced at Lin Muyu and said, "Martial God, what kind of people are following you?" Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. "I met her on the way." "Mayor, do you have a harem of beauties?" "No." Meng Taifeng also rubbed his nose and said, "I've already abstained from women for tens of thousands of years." Shirhan and Ru Yen were silent and did not say anything. Just like that, the group of people entered the main hall and received Meng Tiefeng's hospitality. It was just as Meng Taifeng had said, the City of Dawn was very rich. There was food and drinks everywhere, and there was enough for them to eat. Leah stuffed herself with food until her stomach was full. If it wasn't for Lin Muyu's advice, she might have eaten a donkey. In the afternoon, Ria and the others stayed in the guest rooms to rest. Lin Muyu and Meng Taifeng entered the Sky Feather Grotto. The grotto was under the mayor's residence. Meng Taifeng personally held a torch and passed through layers of mechanisms before arriving in front of a stone wall. Lin Muyu stood still and extended her spirit sense. She took a deep breath and said, "There is a very vast and profound aura behind this stone wall. The Sky Feather Grotto must be behind this." Meng Taifeng smiled slightly and said, "Martial God, please follow me." After pushing open a secret door, a rotten smell suddenly entered her nose. Lin Muyu could not help but frown and hold her breath. "My apologies." Meng Taifeng smiled. "The last time I entered the Sky Feather Grotto was more than 20 years ago. This is a secret room. Aside from me, no one else has the right to enter. City Lord is too polite." Lin Muyu gently raised her hand. Suddenly, a sky dragon crystal condensed in her palm. Light radiated in all directions, illuminating everything in the Sky Feather Grotto. Although this place was rotten, the surrounding walls were engraved with lines of text. Most of them were ancient characters that Lin Muyu could recognize. After all, she had studied Fushi's heavenly book, so it was not a big deal for her to recognize these characters. Meng Taifeng put his hands behind his back and walked side by side with Lin Muyu. He sighed and said, "Many years ago, there were 9 other peerless experts who were as famous as me. We discovered the Sky Feather Grotto together, but we all wanted it for ourselves. In the end, we decided to have a martial arts competition. The final winner would control the Sky Feather Grotto. It was also that battle that I obtained the Sky Feather Grotto. 4 experts died under my sword. Martial God, do you feel ashamed?" Lin Muyu smiled. Meng Tiefeng's hair stood on end. "What do you mean by smiling?" Lin Muyu said, "There are not many good people who are exiled to the Eternal Sword domain to begin with. Isn't it normal for them to kill each other? City Lord, do you think you are a good person?" "Not really, but I'm not a bad person either." Where is the martial arts manual that records the eternal sword domain? Young hero, please follow me. Meng Taifeng walked in front and entered the depths of the grotto. An extremely smooth and neat stone wall appeared in front of them. It was densely packed with small characters. Meng Taifeng said, "Here, this is the eternal sword domain. It is an absolute art that I have painstakingly practiced for many years." Oh, Lin Muyu raised her head to look at the characters. After silently scanning through them, she turned and left. "What's wrong, martial god? Are you done reading it?" Meng Taifeng was stunned. Could it be that martial god doesn't practice the eternal sword domain? "I don't." Lin Muyu smiled. "I have already comprehended the AO sword technique. It would be a waste of time to learn the eternal sword domain. I just need to learn one of the same power. What do you think, City Lord?" Meng Taifeng smiled awkwardly. "That's true. The martial god's state of mind is much better than mine. After entering the Heaven Feather Grotto, I almost fell into madness and forgot the principle of biting off more than I can chew." Lin Muyu continued to walk through the Heaven Feather Grotto with the celestial dragon crystal. Soon, she stood in front of a stone wall and said, "Dao Heart Technique?" "Yes, Dao Heart Technique." Meng Taifeng shook his head. "This technique is not very useful. Although I have seen it, I have not practiced it." Lin Muyu could not help but smile. She raised her head and recited the Dao Heart Technique 3 times in a row. She said, "I have memorized it." Meng Taifeng was stunned. "You have memorized it so quickly? Is the martial god going to practice the Dao Heart Technique? I can practice it when I have nothing to do." Lin Muyu raised the celestial dragon crystal and continued to walk through the grotto. Soon, she stood in front of a stone wall. There was a paragraph of text on this stone wall. On it were the words, "Light Hunting Technique." Meng Taifeng also stood at the side and said, "Absolute power will always be above speed. This light hunting technique is a record of speed. The Lord Martial God does not need to practice it. It is a real waste of time." Lin Muyu said, "Yes, I will write it down for Leah to practice. Absolute speed can even kill light. This is the martial art that she needs the most." Lord Martial God really dotes on this disciple. Of course. I only have this one disciple. How can I not dote on her? Haha, don't tell me you have taken a fancy to your disciple? How could that be? What are you thinking? I only need Leah's power. I need her to help me return to the immortal realm and fight against strong enemies. Leah is talented and has a strong learning ability. If she can master absolute speed, coupled with the stellar technique that I have imparted to her, Leah will almost be able to hold her own. As she spoke, Lin Muyu looked at Meng Taifeng and said, "City Lord, do you want to leave the Eternal Sword domain and see the outside world?" "Can I? This place is a huge cage. Master will show me the way out." "Who is Lord Martial God's master? How can he have such magical powers?" "Fushi." "So it is the 3 great ancestral gods." Meng Taifeng smiled and said, "Forget it. I will stay in the Eternal Sword domain. The outside world is no longer suitable for my old bones. Besides, the Eternal Sword domain needs my strength to maintain its stability." "That's right. Go out." "Finished reading?" "Yes." Lin Muyu had only taken a few steps when she suddenly stopped and said, "City Lord, if I may be so bold as to ask you a favor. If you are willing to help, I will be eternally grateful." "You first. Have you heard of the God Gems?" "That's why I need the God Gems. The more the better. Does Dawn City have them?" "This." Meng Taifeng hesitated for a few seconds, then looked up and said, "The God Gems are precious treasures in the Eternal Sword domain. They can prolong one's life. But since the Martial God is my friend, I can't just sit back and do nothing. There are about 150 God Gems in the treasury of Dawn City that I have collected over the years. If you don't mind, I can give them all to you." "So many?" Lin Muyu was stunned. How can I accept that? You are my only friend." Meng Tiefeng's eyes dimmed. "Do you know how important the word friend is? You are the only friend I have in my life. For a friend, what else can I give? Lin Muyu nodded. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. You are welcome. Let's go have a drink. But it was night time again. The moonlight shone on a courtyard in Dawn City. Lin Muyu sat on the stone bed and silently recited the Tao Heart Sutra to ease the manic feeling brought about by the AO sword skill. The effect was surprisingly good. She was ecstatic and could not help but feel a burst of manic feeling. In front of her, leaves were falling from a maple tree. Swoosh, a figure passed by. Ria held the maple leaves in her hand and placed them neatly in a bamboo basket beside her. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and said, "Too slow. It is easy to chase the wind, but difficult to chase the sound. You can only chase the wind, but you can't even catch the sound. Chase the sound first, then catch the shadow." "Yes, master." Ria pouted, feeling wronged, but she continued to train even harder. Chapter 12:38. In September, the weather was getting hotter and hotter, and the whole Lanyan city seemed to be in a fire cage. The alchemists in the spiritual medicine department had taken off their thick robes and put on cool gauze dresses. Even Chu Yao, the Grand Deacon, was no exception. Chu Yao, who was wearing a beige dress, looked extraordinarily beautiful and elegant. A group of male alchemists secretly admired her, but they could only admire her because Chu Yao's identity and status were beyond their reach. Early in the morning, in the flower garden, Chu Yao sat sullenly on a bench. Lan Yen came over with a teacup and said respectfully, "Grand Deacon, it's Feng Zhanlin and Nangong Lai's turn to be on duty today. You can take a little rest." Why do you look so sullen?" "Am I?" Chu Yao looked up with a smile, then lowered her head and said, "Lan Yen, I had a dream last night." "What did you dream about?" "I dreamed." Chu Yao was a little hesitant. After a long while, she moved her red lips and said, "I dreamed that you was pressed under a mountain with blood all over his body. I dreamed that Feng Jixing was seriously injured and unconscious. I dreamed that countless stars and towers rolled down from the sky. I dreamed that everything between heaven and earth had collapsed. Are these real? Dreams are just thoughts and worries. They may not come true. Don't worry too much, Grand Deacon. Is that so?" Chu Yao was still sullen. Then she reached out to hold the teacup, but at the moment she lifted the teacup, her fingers were plated with a faint layer of golden light, burning the teacup red. "Ah, what's wrong?" Lan Yen was shocked. Chu Yao frowned slightly. She knew what had happened. A strong force was pouring into her body, and her mind became clearer. Her whole person seemed to have undergone a qualitative leap. She could not help trembling and said, "Lan Yen, I may have to leave." "What's wrong, Grand Deacon? Don't scare me." "It's nothing. I just sensed the summons of the Mahayana heavenly Tao. I'm going to the heaven realm." In the air, layers of golden scrolls were unfurled. They were the heavenly melody scrolls, and the names on them were faintly discernible. Chu Yao's name was also among them, and it was very conspicuous. Not long after, Feng Zhanlin and Nangong Lai rushed in from the outer hall. The two of them were dumbfounded, and almost at the same time, they said, "Deacon Chu Yao, are you ascending?" Then we. Nangong Lai was at a loss. Chu Yao said, "Please lead the Dragon League and stay here, waiting for the opportunity to ascend to the Mahayana realm." "Yes." In the air, the Dharma body of Goddess Nviwa appeared and looked at Chu Yao with a kind gaze. She said, "Chu Yao, you are kind and love all living things. Now that you have been recognized by the heavenly melody scrolls, you will be granted the Dharma body of an intermediate deity and the title Goddess of Prophecy. You will also be granted the power of a true deity, Foresight. May you inherit the Mahayana heavenly Tao and cultivate well." "Thank you, Supreme Deity." Chu Yao's body seemed to be pulled as she slowly flew into the sky. Although the gate of heaven could not be seen, her body quickly dissipated, turning into pink petals that scattered in the air. "Grand Deacon." Lan Yen looked at the sky blankly and murmured, "Are you gone?" There was no response from the sky. Chu Yao had already left for the heaven realm. Swoosh! A strong light shone on the hall of great accomplishment. Chu Yao's ascension had attracted everyone's attention. The surrounding deities knelt on one knee to show their respect. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi smiled and walked forward. Sister Chu Yao. The petals swirled around her. Chu Yao slowly opened her eyes. Her body shone faintly and she smiled. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, long time no see. Is this the Eastern Heaven Realm? Not far away, Xiao walked over and smiled. Congratulations, Miss Chu Yao, for obtaining the title of Goddess of Prophecy. Welcome to the Eastern Celestial Realm. Chu Yao bowed respectfully. Greetings, Fairy Xiao. Xiao smiled. Chu Yao, you are the Goddess of Prophecy. You have obtained the power of a true deity from the Mahayana Heavenly Tao. Can you really predict the future? Did you see anything? I saw some. Chu Yao bit her red lips and said, I saw some bad things. These days I have been dreaming almost every day. I dreamed that you and Brother Feng were injured. I dreamed that the gods fell again. I dreamed that the heavenly might fell from the sky. But I don't know if these are the prophecies of the Goddess of Prophecy. If they are, then it's too bad. Yao's expression turned cold as she said, if that's really the case, then something might really happen. In fact, I've been feeling uneasy these past few days, feeling that something big is about to happen. The demon domain has been calm for many days now, and no one knows what's happening in the demon domain, nor do they know what they're planning. Yu hasn't returned yet, so everything is still uncertain. Where did you go? Eternal Sword Domain, a very far place. You went to seek the strongest power. Oh, that stinking brat as a martial god, he isn't in the god realm. If he doesn't even participate in the war of gods and demons, then he has neglected his duty as a martial god. Xiao looked at the crowd with clear eyes and said, the invasion of the demon realm is imminent. I hope everyone can cultivate well. Don't let down our responsibilities as righteous gods. Don't let down the worship and prayers of the common people in the god realm. Yes, Fairy Xiao. At night, the starry sky of the god realm was very dark. Chu Yao stood at the peak of a spirit mountain, towering like a statue. Streams of starry water flowed around her, carrying with them the spiritual energy that the people of the divine world needed. Spiritual energy was the most basic nourishment for gods. Without spiritual energy, it was like a fish leaving the water or a person leaving the air. The source of spiritual energy came from the spirit mountains in the sky, as well as the streams of starry water flowing in the wind. Suddenly, Chu Yao opened her eyes and clenched her fists. They're here. Yao, what's here? Feng Jixing asked. The people of the demon realm. Chu Yao bit her red lips and said, a lot of people are here. There's a person holding a pagoda and an old man. Both of them are very powerful. Feng Jixing, swoosh. A ray of spiritual light fell and condensed into the figure of Xiao. She asked, Fairy Chu Yao, what do you see? The army of the demon realm has rushed out of the exit of the chaos realm and is coming in our direction. Chu Yao closed her eyes. Her vision penetrated the plane and looked at the army of the demon realm. She said, there are too many of them. They also brought a huge red cauldron. There's a burning red liquid inside. I don't know what it is. Xiao's eyes were cold. She said to the righteous god with thick eyebrows, Dragon Sequence, immediately send a warning. The Eastern Divine Realm will immediately enter a state of war. The demon realm is attacking. Although he was an untitled lower god of the third tier, he was at least a Mahayana god of the heavenly Tao. His strength was much stronger than those useless gods. It was just that such an untitled righteous god didn't have any special divine power. Once he encountered an attack from the devil realm, he might not even be able to withstand the frenzied attacks of a group of devil luos. At this moment, Chu Yao was still looking at the army of Mara in the distance. Suddenly, Ziyen, who was riding on the back of the demonic tiger, looked up at the sky. He seemed to have sensed something. The corner of his mouth rose, revealing a sinister smile. Chu Yao took a few steps back. She opened her beautiful eyes, and her face was pale. What's wrong, Yao? Feng Jixing asked. He saw me. Chu Yao bit her red lips and said, The Lord of the Demon Realm. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth, raised the crimson phoenix saber, and said, Fairy Ziyao, I'm going to guard the Hall of Great Accomplishment. But no one could sleep in this late night. The invasion of the demon realm was imminent. Almost everyone began to prepare for a showdown. After a full 2 hours, dark clouds rolled over from the western horizon, and blood-red thunderbolts descended from the sky. The dark mass of the evil Luo army blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they rushed over. What should come had finally come. Don't let them land, Sun Feng shouted. Got it. Feng Jixing flew up proudly and stood in the sky above the Hall of Great Accomplishment. He raised his palms, and a whirlwind danced around him. Suddenly, tornadoes appeared in the distant sky, and they swept across with azure lightning. Feng Jixing's power of controlling the wind produced dimensional storms with shocking destructive power. For a moment, the screams of Mara's army were continuous. There were even 2 demon generals who couldn't dodge in time and were swallowed by the violent winds. What a powerful wind god! Sun Feng said with a stern gaze. Ziyao bit her red lips and looked back at the path paved by the North Tianlun. She said, Demon Emperor, come back quickly. Hurry! In the sky, the demonic flames surged and pressed down. Roar! A huge demonic tiger stepped on the air. It was Ziyan's mount. At this moment, Ziyan was sitting on the back of the demonic tiger. He held the glowing god-destroying pagoda in his hand and smiled faintly. I heard that your heavenly melody scroll has conferred another wind god? It's you, right? Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows. He knew that his strength was far from Ziyan's, but he mustn't be crushed in terms of aura. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have a chance to fight. Clang! The azure dragon's saber was unsheathed. Feng Jixing's figure suddenly spun, and he slashed out as if he was tearing the sky apart. A crazy storm swept out and went straight for Ziyan. Facing Feng Jixing's fierce attack, Ziyan stood there motionlessly. He didn't take out the god-destroying pagoda, and he didn't move at all. However, a figure gradually condensed in front of him. It was an old man with a pale face. Although he looked old, he was wearing a full set of hideous armor. It was the 9 Underworlds Demon King. Boom! The 9 Underworlds Demon King raised his arm and easily dispersed Feng Jixing's saber wind. He smiled and said, Is this all the righteous god of the later generations can do? Lord Ancestor Emperor Ziyan, do you have any orders? Ziyan smiled faintly and said, No orders. The only order is, kill wantonly. Everyone here deserves to die. Swoosh! The 9 Underworlds Demon King's figure flashed and appeared in front of Feng Jixing in the next moment. His crooked fingers swept down like an eagle's claw, bringing with it an intense demonic flame. Bang! How could Feng Jixing block it? His body shot through the Hall of Great Accomplishment like a cannonball. Chapter 1239. As the wind raged, more than 1/3 of the Hall of Great Accomplishment was turned into dust. Feng Jixing was lying in the rubble. He was severely injured after just one attack. This man was so powerful that it was beyond imagination. Without waiting for Ziyao to say anything, 2 figures flew over and a dazzling sword light blasted towards the back of the 9 Serenities Demon Monarch. Apart from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, perhaps no one else would have the guts to do so. Good. The 9th Serenity Demon King laughed wildly. He suddenly shook his arms, and the demonic flame behind him surged. Instantly, it solidified into a blood-red rock layer. Everyone was shocked. Was this crazy old man planning to use this layer to block the double attack from the Goddess of Grace and the God of Love? The power of order and the fire of destruction burst out hundreds of sword lights and attacked the 9th Serenity Demon King's back. Boom, boom, boom. The air was shaking and the fire shot up to the sky. Qin Yin's light and Tang Xiaoxi's fire were very hot. They almost swallowed the 9th Serenity Demon King's body in an instant. However, The strong air waves made them step back, and they couldn't stand still in the air anymore. Demon Realm. In the air, Bai Feng and the Holy King were stunned. They were very nervous. The ninth Serenity Demon King couldn't be killed by the two goddesses so easily, could he? As the flames dissipated, everyone was not disappointed. A figure emerged from the flames, and it was the ninth Hell Demonic Monarch. The armor on his body had already been melted by the divine power of the two goddesses, revealing his powerful muscles. There was an insufferably arrogant smile on his face as he laughed loudly. Graceful Goddess Qin Yin, Love Goddess Tang Xiaoxi? Looks like you are no match for me. Get out of here. I don't want to kill such cute girls. Get out of here. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other with their swords in their hands. They could see the worry in each other's eyes. This time, the demon realm was not a small matter. Just the 9 underworlds Demon King alone was already impressive. Moreover, there was also Ziyen who had the god-destroying pagoda, which was even more difficult to deal with. Right at this moment, a cool breeze blew past their ears, bringing with it Chu Chu's words, Highness Yin, Princess Shi, this old man will help you to restrain the 9 Nether Demon King, but I can only restrain him for a short while. Please use your strongest power immediately. Whether or not you can defeat the 9 Nether Demon King will depend on this attack. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded at the same time. Divine power surged in their bodies. Qin Yin's East Flower sword shone brightly. Her strongest attack was very simple. It was the 7th attack of Shi Yan's 7 slashes, which was supported by the power of order, slaying God. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, had a faint smile on her face. She had already entered the state of the demon god, and her palms were filled with flame-breaking fire. What are you two children waiting for? Why don't you scram? The 9 Serenities Demon Monarch laughed. Could it be that you want to be this old man's wife? Before he could finish laughing, a patch of green suddenly appeared in the air. Vines spun rapidly in the air, and even small white flowers grew on his body. What is this? The 9 Nether Demon King said coldly. He raised his palms and saw strands of grass seeping out from his blood vessels. It was really a little scary. Petty tricks. Deceitful tricks. The 9 Nether Demon King roared. Immediately, the demonic flames around him started to burn the vines that covered the sky. However, the vines were supported by Chu Chu's divine power. They didn't stop burning. Instead, they became tighter and tighter on the 9 Nether Demon King's limbs, making him unable to move. Now, the avatar in the air appeared behind the 9 Nether Demon King. It was like a huge tree hugging the 9 Nether Demon King. This was a rare opportunity. If they missed it, it would be difficult to kill the 9 Nether Demon King again. Whoosh! A sword light fell from the sky. It was Qin Yin's slaying god. Tang Xiaoxi attacked from the side. The flame-breaking fire swallowed the 9 Nether Demon King's body like a river. Boom, 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 boom. A series of piercingly cold explosions rang out continuously, and the powerful airwaves from the domain forced Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to retreat. Chu Chu had already escaped at the first possible moment. Amidst the continuous explosions brought about by the god-slaying strike, everyone could even hear the miserable howls of the demon monarch of the netherworld. 9 Nether. Bai Feng gritted her teeth. Are you worried about him? Ziyen asked with a smile. Bai Feng shook her head. I'm just worried that the demon realm will lose a powerful expert. If the 9 Nether Demon King is killed like this, then he doesn't deserve to be the first vanguard of the demon realm. It's better to die than to live in shame. A group of saint kings and demon generals of the demon world stared at him. Everyone had their own thoughts. Originally, the 9 underworld demon kings' return to the world was bound to cause a dispute in the demon world. But if he died here, then the throne of the demon world lord would really be firmly held by that despicable person Ziyen. Under the suspicious gazes of the crowd, a man stood up in a sorry state amidst the light and flames. His body had been burnt to the point that it was not complete. His whole body was charred black, revealing pieces of bright red flesh. However, these exposed wounds were wriggling and healing rapidly, showing the astonishing vitality of the owner. The nine-nether demon king clenched his fists. His body was covered in demonic flames. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Your attacks can only damage my body, but not my bones. Come, since you want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. I will send you to the purgatory of reincarnation. As expected, he's not dead, Ziyen sneered. Don't let the nine-nether demon king be alone. All demon gods of the demon realm, charge. Flatten the hall of great accomplishment and destroy this so-called Eastern god realm. Jie. In the sky, the Devil Luo army let out a low roar. Countless devil generals wielding long blades, iron spears, giant shields, sharp swords, riding on demon tigers, demon deer, giant elephants, and other mounts descended from the sky one after another. They led the Devil Luo army and began to attack those crippled gods who were guarding the various spirit mountains. Their strength was originally not on the same level. Now that they did not have Lin Muyu's holy martial power, the situation in the Eastern Heaven realm was already extremely critical. Zi Yao frowned. At this moment, she had no choice but to fight. The power of balance surged in her palm. Suddenly, heaven and earth turned upside down. Countless Mara crashed into the spirit mountain. Zi Yao raised her sword and soared into the sky. Together with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, the three goddesses besieged the nine-nether demon king. Every palm of the nine-nether demon king was extremely powerful and overbearing. The three goddesses had no choice but to deal with it carefully. Feng Jixing crawled out from the rubble and sat on the broken roof. Panting heavily, he suddenly stabbed his saber into the ground and stood up. His palms were perfectly round, and gusts of wind force once again wreaked havoc in the air, attacking and killing. Other than that, the six great untitled righteous gods, who were led by Long Su, also rushed up to the clouds and fought with Mo Luo and the demon generals. The entire East Heavens quickly became a purgatory on earth. Zi Yen descended from the sky, and the god-destroying pagoda descended. It directly enveloped the body of a righteous god. In an instant, his body disappeared into thin air. The power of the god-destroying pagoda became even more domineering. Be ****. Long Su roared angrily. His long blade carried the majestic power of the earth and slashed toward Ziyen. Can a Mahayana heavenly Tao god be so weak? Ziyen laughed loudly. With just a light punch, he broke Long Su's long saber with a kacha sound. Then he followed up with another punch, directly penetrating Long Su's abdomen. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere, and it was a tragic sight to behold. Another Mahayana heavenly Tao righteous god had fallen. It seemed, the speed of the heavenly melody scroll's apotheosis was not as fast as the demon realm's killing speed. Ziyan's eyes were already filled with viciousness. He had completely forgotten his vow to become a good demon. Not far away, a blood-red storm was wreaking havoc in the sky, tearing groups of Mara into pieces. The one who launched it was a beautiful woman. It was the masterpiece of prophecy goddess Chu Yao. She controlled the blood-red prophecy storm to attack. In this kind of chaotic battle, she was very outstanding. However, this also made it easy for her to be targeted by Zi Yen. Courting death. Without another word, Zi Yen raised his palm lightly, and the god-destroying pagoda appeared. Layers of tarot towers carried the destructive storm and attacked. He shouted, "Prophecy goddess, die!" Chu Yao's delicate body trembled. Her body seemed to be locked, and she couldn't move. "Yao, be careful!" Feng Jixing roared angrily. He rose from the ground and blocked in front of Chu Yao like a sharp arrow. The azure dragon and scarlet phoenix blades were raised horizontally. A thunderous storm blasted out and went straight for the energy of the god-destroying pagoda. Boom! How could Feng Jixing block the god-destroying pagoda? The thunderous storm was instantly destroyed, and a beam of light poured down on him and Chu Yao. It's over, it's over. Feng Jixing's heart was filled with coldness. His body couldn't move, and he couldn't help but wail in his heart. Who could predict the changes of the world? Perhaps even prophecy goddess Chu Yao didn't know that the two of them would die like this. However, at this moment, a figure descended from the sky with a vigorous starry storm. A single strike destroyed the energy of the god-destroying pagoda. His body knelt in the air, and his cloak fluttered. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Only he had the strength to forcefully destroy the attack of the god-destroying pagoda. "It's you again, 7 luminaries." Ziyan roared angrily, and his face was filled with malevolence. "Do you think you can stop me? Come, god-destroying pagoda, destroy this mad god for me." Wang, the god-destroying pagoda let out a piercing whistle, and the entire demon realm turned dark. The energy was almost instantly drained by the god-destroying pagoda. The golden-red flames surged, and the next attack was already locked on to the 7 luminaries demon emperor. "Feng Jixing Chu Yao, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you leaving? Do you want to stay and die together?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor roared and raised his arm. Pangu's axe glowed resplendently, and the surrounding was surrounded by beams of starry energy. This was the prelude to the 7 luminaries' stars transformation. Feng Jixing turned around and left the sky with Chu Yao. At the same time, he said in a low voice, "Thank you, Demon Emperor." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor looked at Ziyan with a frivolous expression and grinned. "The Mahayana Heavenly Tao's main god can't die anymore." "Is that so?" Ziyan laughed out loud. "Then you shall die first." Boom! The two beams of light collided, but it was obvious that the god-destroying pagoda had the upper hand. It quickly dissipated the power of the 7 luminaries, and the beam of light rained down on the 7 luminaries demon emperor's body like raging flames. In an instant, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's cloth cloak was burned to ashes, and his armor was also burned red. However, the 7 luminaries demon emperor stood there motionlessly, and a pair of cold eyes looked at Ziyan. Instead, he suddenly swung the Pangu axe in his hand. The axe hit the 9 luminaries demon emperor's back. "Io, which bastard sneak attacked me?" The 9 luminaries demon emperor was furious. Then he received another fierce attack from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Instantly, his aura became even weaker, and he could only retreat. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The biting cold power of the god-destroying pagoda continuously attacked the 7 luminaries demon emperor's body, but everyone could see that the 7 luminaries demon emperor gritted his teeth and endured the strong pain. Golden bone patterns appeared around his body. This was the unyielding bones, the ability of the mad god. Without this unyielding bones, the 7 luminaries demon emperor would have been killed by the god-destroying pagoda long ago. "Are you guys still waiting to watch the show?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor roared. "Ziyao, Sun Feng, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, take the Eastern Celestial Realm seeds and leave Mount Deshang. We can't defend this place anymore. Find a new place. If you guys don't die, the Eastern Celestial Realm won't die. Don't worry about me, I'll be here soon." As he spoke, the 7 luminaries demon emperor reached out and grabbed the Pangu axe that was circling back. He shouted in a low voice, "Split the sky, Pangu axe." Boom! A huge spatial crack appeared in front of them. This was one of the Pangu axe's abilities. It could split open a spatial door. Chapter 1240. Let's go! Under Ziyao's command, Chu Yao, Qin Yin, and the rest flew into the spatial gate. Feng Jixing wielded his dual blades and once again used wind to block the pursuing Mara's army. Hundreds of experts guarding the Hall of Great Accomplishment entered the alternate dimension. Trying to escape? No way! Chase after them! Ziyan roared. Bai Feng, Holy King, and the rest flew down. Who dares to chase after us? The 7 luminaries demon emperor roared. He raised his left hand, and a storm blasted through the air in front of him. It turned into a blazing river and blocked Bai Feng, Holy King, and the rest. No one dared to cross this river. Otherwise, they would be killed. The might of the mad god 7 luminaries demon emperor was not just for show. Ziyan smiled sinisterly. 7 luminaries demon emperor, if you send them off, who will send you off? The 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. The fighting spirit in his eyes burned even brighter. He held Panga's axe and laughed. There's no need. I come and go as I please. Do you scum think you can keep me here? Is that so? A cold voice came from behind the 7 luminaries demon emperor. It was the voice of the world destroyer Holy Emperor, one of the 3 holy emperors of the demon world. Swish. An ice blade blasted straight at the 7 luminaries demon emperor's back. However, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had already predicted it. He dodged it and stretched out his axe to hook God Destroyer Holy Emperor's extreme frost. He pulled it back and instantly switched places with the World Destroyer Holy Emperor. He laughed and said, "Come, have a taste of the power of the God Destroyer Pagoda." How could the Holy Emperor have thought of such a move? His body was quickly burned into ashes by the God-destroying pagoda. On the other hand, the 7 luminaries demon emperor disappeared from the sky above the Hall of Great Accomplishment. The Holy Emperor's screams reverberated through the air. Finally, when the body of the Holy Emperor of World Annihilation turned into a cloud of smoke, the people of the demon realm were all stunned. The Netherworld Demon King snorted coldly, then lowered his head and rushed into the Hall of Great Accomplishment, as if he didn't want to talk to Ziyan anymore. As for Bai Feng Holy King, he frowned and said, "Ancestor Emperor Ziyan, why didn't you retract the power of the God-exterminating pagoda? With your cultivation, you should be able to control the God-exterminating pagoda. Then, World-exterminating Holy Emperor wouldn't have died." "Really?" Ziyan smiled faintly. "What if I don't want to retract this attack from the God-destroying pagoda?" "This, Bai Feng, don't forget who you are with." Ziyan laughed coldly. "Originally, I only needed to use the God-destroying pagoda for a while to melt Violent God's arrogance. That would have been enough to kill him. However, it was that trash, world-exterminating Holy Emperor who interfered and let Violent God go. What's the point of keeping such trash alive? Furthermore, if world-exterminating Holy Emperor doesn't die, how can I become the perfect master of the demon realm?" As he said that, Ziyan took a deep breath. Instantly, the remnants of world-exterminating Holy Emperor's demonic energy in the air were sucked into his nose. It was as if he had just eaten a feast, and his face was filled with enjoyment. Devouring and the conversation between the Holy Emperor. It was also through this method that Ziyan became so powerful that he didn't even care about the Demon King of the 9 underworlds. After about an hour, Ziyan had completely absorbed the remnants of world-exterminating Holy Emperor's demonic energy. He felt even more energized. Looking at Mount Dashang below, he said, "All right, order the Demon Realm's army to use this Mount Dashang as a base and start spreading out to the surrounding spirit mountains. Send out 2-winged Mara to search for the whereabouts of Xiao, Qin Yin, and the rest. We must eradicate the Eastern Celestial Realm." "Yes, Ancestor Emperor." The moonlight was as red as blood. On this night, the Eastern Celestial Realm fell. Countless people were killed, and there were at least 20,000 of them. The once prosperous Eastern Celestial Realm was about to be destroyed. At this time, on Mount Buhai, which was an unknown distance away from the Eastern Celestial Realm, several figures landed like flowing lights. Among them were Ziyao, Feng Jixing, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the rest. The remaining gods of the Eastern Celestial Realm were all here. "Where is this?" Qin Yin asked as she looked at the surrounding forest and fertile land. Ziyao glanced at the northern region Tianluan and said, "Mount Buhai, a barren land located at the border between the Eastern Divine Realm and the Northern Divine Realm. It is very difficult to detect and can be used as a temporary shelter. Let's not talk too much. Let's find a hidden place to stay first. Many people are injured and need treatment. Do we have anyone who is good at medicine?" Chu Yao walked over while holding her injured arm and said, "I worked in the spiritual medicine department when I was in the mortal realm. I know how to treat people." That's great. Ziyao looked to the east and couldn't help but say, but I don't know how the demon emperor is doing. He's coming. In the air, a group of figures crashed straight into the forest, creating a long ravine. It was the 7 luminaries demon emperor, who was holding Panga's axe. He slowly stood up and said, "Is this place safe?" "It's still safe." The one who spoke was Nu Shur, the only demon in the Eastern Divine Realm. She blinked her eyes and said very seriously, "The aura around here is very chaotic. It is almost cut off from the outside." The ability of the people in the demon realm to sense auras is far inferior to the Mahayana heavenly Tao. So as long as no one snitches, we are safe here. That's good. This place will be the temporary shelter of the Eastern Celestial Realm. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's eyes were cold. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth again. He said, "Let's go and find a cave to rest in. Chu Yao, help me treat my internal organs." "Yes, demon emperor." Everyone's eyes were filled with deep worry. Not only did they lose 2 righteous gods in this battle, even a peerless expert like the 7 luminaries demon emperor was seriously injured. The demon realm could be said to be like the sun in the sky now. No one in the 4 celestial realms could stop them. One day later, Western Divine Realm, Temple of Light. Shi Yen sat on the Divine King's throne and looked at everyone indifferently. She said, "The Eastern Celestial Realm has been destroyed. The 7 luminaries demon emperor, Ziyao, Xin, Shaoxi, and the other righteous gods have escaped. Their whereabouts are unknown. Tell me, what should we do now? In the past, when the Eastern Divine Realm was still here, we could still join forces to fight against the enemy. Now, only the Western Divine Realm and the Northern Heaven Realm are left." Li Fei said, "Lord Shi Yen, even the 7 luminaries demon emperor, a first-tier superior god, was defeated. It can be seen how terrifying the power of the demon realm is now. In addition to the increasingly powerful ancestor Emperor Zien, it is said that there is also the 9 underworlds demon king. This person is an elder of the demon realm and his strength is unfathomable. In the battle at Mount Dashang, the 9 underworlds demon king fought against Ziyao, Xin, and Shaoxi without being defeated. It can be seen how powerful this person is. If Ziyen orders the demon realm to attack the Western Divine Realm in full force, what are the chances of us winning? I'm afraid we have no chance of winning? Shi Yen smiled bitterly. Eva smiled faintly. I feel that Ziyen will not be in a hurry to attack the Western Divine Realm. Why? Shi Yen asked. Eva's blazing angel cloak swayed slightly. She smiled elegantly and said, Ziyen is a despicable, shameless, and narrow-minded person. He will not allow anyone to pose the slightest threat to him. In the battle at Mount Dashang, we clearly saw through the illusory pawn that at least one person could fight against Ziyan's god-destroying tower without dying. That person is the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Therefore, what Ziyan wants to do the most now is to find the 7 luminaries demon emperor and kill him. I feel that as long as the 7 luminaries demon emperor is not found, our Western Divine Realm will be safe. Shi Yen said, I can't sense Xin's aura anymore. Perhaps she has gone into hibernation and doesn't want to be discovered. The same goes for Ziyao and Shaoxi. The Eastern gods have entered a state similar to hibernation. They don't want to be found by the demon realm. What can we do now? Find them first, protect them, or other choices? Terralyn said, Lady Shi Yen, the most important thing we should do now is to excavate and find primordial light stones to create more old gods. Otherwise, we won't be able to compete with the demon realm. Shi Yen smiled faintly. How strong do we need to be to compete with the demon realm now? Terralyn thought for a while and said, Eva Blazing Angel has comprehended the heavenly way of Mahayana. Together with Lady Shi Yen, we may be able to fight against Ziyen and the 9 Serenities Demon King. As for the rest, we need at least 5,000 battle angels to have a 50% chance of winning. But we only have a few dozen old gods now. It's simply a drop in the bucket. Even a 10 million demon realm army can't resist. Shi Yen seemed a little tired and asked, how many demon realm armies are there in the Eastern Divine Realm? Li Fei said, "About 30 million. Shi Yan said faintly, "It seems that the fall of the Eastern Divine Realm has become a foregone conclusion. Is there any news of you? He has been cultivating outside for a long time. If he returns, this martial god might be able to reverse the situation." "Not yet." Eva shook her head and said, "Searching for a new kind of power is a very difficult thing. Even if he was talented, he can't do it in a day. We still need to give him more time and patience." Shi Yan pursed her red lips and said, "Send 5 battle angels to secretly search for the whereabouts of the Eastern Divine Realm gods. Contact them as soon as possible. If they need help, the Western Divine Realm will definitely go all out." "Yes." Eternal Sword Domain. The back mountain of the Bright Sword Forest seemed to be always misty and rainy. Lin Muyu sat on a rock and entered a state of meditation. This state had lasted for an entire day. Beside him, Leah held a green umbrella to shield him from the wind and rain. Leah found that Lin Muyu's cultivation seemed to be regressing. During meditation, he didn't even open up his aura to block the wind and rain. Instead, he let the wind and rain hit him like a stone statue. She bent down to look at Lin Muyu's face worriedly and said, "Master hasn't woken up for a day and a night. Could he have become stupid from cultivating?" "Master, talk to Leah." Lin Muyu still didn't say anything. After a long while, he finally opened his eyes slowly. His mind was clear and clear. He stretched his arms and said, "Leah, how long have I been meditating?" "1 day and 1 night. Leah pouted and said, "Master has been ignoring me all this time." Sorry, I was immersed in my state of mind and didn't hear your voice." "Then, has Master's proud sword technique improved?" Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "About 70%, soon." Leah wants to see." "How do you want to see?" The power of the proud sword technique. "This," Lin Muyu thought for a while and said with a smile, "Watch carefully." He stood up and stared at a mountain peak about 2,000 meters away. His body was majestic and unmoving, but his eyes suddenly flashed with killing intent, as if a sword had swept past. Boom! In the distance, an entire mountain peak suddenly fell horizontally, as if it had been cut diagonally by a sword. Leah opened her mouth and was speechless. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.